Welcome in, everyone, to session 0 of Blood and Iron, the new chronicle that we're actually going to be doing here on CoffeeCat Presents, as some of us are familiar with our existing cast members, and so we're going to kind of give an idea to you guys who our cast members are going to be playing, as well as what our expectations are for the story and flesh out some of the tokens and character sheets, possibly, of some of the key players as far as NPCs go in this particular chronicle. So, welcome in, everyone. I'm glad you are all here for this. And we're returning cast members from Austin, obviously. So we have Moxie Pox. Why don't you give us a brief description of the character Alexandra that you're going to be playing today for this chronicle?
Hi guys, I'm Moxie. And the character that I'm going to be playing is named Alexandra. She is a Tremere based with, um, she comes from a group of, I've lost my words. My brain has just gone. Her sire, Alison, uh, is the child of one of the characters from Brisbane by Night,
Malaeus.
Malleus. Thank you. My
Yes.
brain is not. And yeah, Alexandra has traveled across the ocean to come visit Dallas. Um, search of mere knowledge.
In search of Tremere knowledge, as most Tremere are wont to do. So,
Yes,
uh,
it's pretty difficult.
so what is this sort of things that Alexandra's going to be looking for with this Tremere knowledge? What is she aiming to do?
She wants to expand the influence of her clan and kind of bring it back to a place of power
Hmm. For Brisbane or worldwide?
worldwide.
Hmm. Well, we'll have to find out.
She wants she wants to have a big hand in that.
Hmm. She definitely wants to get recognized. Well, that brings us to our cast member who doesn't have video today because, webcam thing. But Spectre Deflector, you are indeed here. Give us a brief description of Anna and what you hope to tell with her.
Anna. Anna. Anna is the basic head case as far as Malkavians are. When you think of them being embraced because they're crazy, that's probably what her situation is, despite what Dr. Rhiannon Vale has already suggested. You see, Anna, as the name implies, was an eating disorder patient, was at the psych ward where she met her sire, Dr. Rhiannon Vale, who decided to embrace her, considering she was the ideal vessel for an air quotes experiment.
Hmm.
Since then, Dr. Rhiannon Vale has kind of taken Anna with her across the states to Dallas, Texas, to the court of blood and iron, and among to the eyes of Prince Warsi. What the situation is with that is yet to be seen, but as far as Anna is concerned, she has to prove herself to the court as an outsider, as well as a clan, what is traditionally clan rivalry of a Malkavian within Nosferatu City.
Hmm.
How do you hold secrets in a city of secret keepers?
Hmm. It's very true.
Secret finders. Yep.
Yep. Very true. Very true. And then we have the wonderful Macabre Derek, and joining us as well, returning cast member as well. Derek, give us a brief description of Shriek.
Creek in life was a cameraman at one point. Ended up, the 6 o'clock news, or always the person behind the scenes, never the one in front. There's always been an individual who's been a little flippant with his life. Typically, he ends up here going about and just grabbing cables, setting up cameras, trying to make sure that the lighting's right, and always out of sight, but always watching, always listening. Learned a lot from his internship. But the sad truth of it is that these qualities are also what attracted Miss Morn to him. You see, at this current time, Shriek has found that he is a Nosferatu, but his clan is known for being hideous, twisted. The embrace changes the body. The stronger the blood, the more monstrous one becomes. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, that's not what happened. You see, Shriek is apparently a part of a slightly odd bloodline for Nosferatu. A type that says, while he could keep his more human visage, a visual check wouldn't tell you much of anything. The sad truth of it is that wherever he goes, he becomes a walking infestation. Where he ends up here, stepping here causes cockroaches and rats and centipedes and all kinds of little nasties to start pouring out of dumpsters and, the walls. It causes some concern as this forces Shriek to stay in places that are less desirable as to not attract attention. At this current point, he's still trying to find his place within the court. Miss Morn has earned enough respect to stay within Warzy, but there is some frustration, shall we say, amongst the Nosferatu, a small divide. Perhaps it's jealousy that Shriek managed to keep his face, or maybe it's something else that is not to Shriek's full understanding. And yet, at this point, trying to end up finding one's place, well, to live up to the Nosferatu ideal, the clan of secrets, the whisperers, that sort. Because of his connections in amongst not only here the news circles, but amongst here those involving lawyers and law, and a fair amount of ambulance chasing here when he was still the cameraman. Shriek finds himself now having to bring his talents to light in a different way, in service to Prince Warzy and the Camarilla.
Yes. Yes, indeed. And that brings us to our final cast member, but certainly not the least. That is That Fat Guy. That Fat Guy 3 here on Twitch, as well as a returning cast member, bringing us Kane, the La Sombra.
Yes. That's tough to know where to begin for him. In life, he had a hard upbringing, got into a lot of trouble, in and out of the system in many ways. But after realizing that, where he was heading, he always had a drive to overcome things and survive. He ended up, instead of using his talents for ill-gotten gains for the most part, turned semi-pro in boxing and MMA circles. and started to the point where he even opened his own gym. But through circumstance, he ended up on another side that he never would have thought existed. He always thought that he was cursed. Just bad luck. But we'll never know what caused everything. But for how he acts, it's very driven. Like, he needs to succeed. He needs to prove that he's worth it. He enjoyed the limelight. He wants to be known. He wants to be important. And that's going to take expanding influence and gaining power. So it's going to be a struggle to survive in a different world now.
Very nice. Very nice. It definitely seems like there is a common theme of finding one's place and trying to be important. So, how exactly that comes about? Well, that's gonna all depend on you all. The sort of coterie name that's been decided upon and is the subtitle of this particular chronicle is called Dead Man's Hand, which, you know, could be a play on words. It could be exactly that. Could mean anything. But you've been all collected together for a purpose. What that purpose is for us to decide now, as we sort of get an idea of what it is that we all kind of expect in this particular chronicle. So, with that being said, you all will be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, a metropolitan area of Texas, fourth largest in the country, and houses roughly 8 million people between all of the suburbs and inner cities, and even the surrounding area even expands beyond that. And so, in a sense, this entire metropolitan area is controlled by Prince Warsi. And the framing of which is, it's a couple of years since Prince Warsi declared that the Anarchs be purged from Dallas and Fort Worth. That there no longer be an Anarch presence within these cities, as there are other havens for such degenerates such as Austin or San Antonio, or God forbid they want to strike a fight up in Houston. Anywhere else but here. This is a Camarilla bastion. And Prince Warsi rules it with an iron fist and like clockwork. If you do not run on time, well, that's consequences may come down the line if you're not timely and do exactly as you're told. So it is a rather harsh city to survive in. But those who have survived have well and justly earned it. And do not give up their spots for anyone. So, this is the place you all call home. Where exactly you fall in the actual geography, we'll decide upon that at a time that's convenient and all of that. But the important matters being, we must decide on chronicle tenets. And so, What are your thoughts on Chronicle Tenants, everybody?
Hmm.
Opening up the book now.
Yep, so am I. I'm glad I am not the only one whose head is potato tonight.
Potato.
Hey, I have the highest class of potato.
You are great potatoes. This is why you guys keep coming back to my chronicles, is because you somehow enjoy the worlds that I throw you into and the tears that I make you shed. So that's kind of part of the
We're
course.
all masochists here.
I mean, the best kind
Yes.
of
Right.
potatoes are the ones that are fried, so that's
I am a connoisseur, I'll have you know. I am Irish. I know
Yes.
good potato.
So, yes, some good Chronicle Tenants for our lovely
Very,
people.
very first one that comes to mind,
Mm.
actually, just that plays really well for Camarilla games.
Hmm.
Disobedience is dishonor.
It is a very good one, and it would be something that that Prince Warsi would want to instill in all of his constituents.
But it makes for a. Actually, I have two, and I think these two work really well in a Camarilla game specifically because it puts you in that odd dichotomy that can
Mm.
make you take stains either
Mm.
way,
Mm.
right? Which is, yeah, disobedience is dishonor, and protect the innocent from harm. The protect the
Mm.
innocent from harm is not so much as the trying to be a hero kind of situation. What it's more a case of is that's the tenant that forces you to enforce the masquerade doubly.
Yes.
Because to expose them to in any way past the masquerade or into the masquerade puts them at threat as well.
Hmm. And given that we're playing in the year 2025, which is, several years since the attacks on Vienna and London and the Second Inquisition becoming more and more powerful, especially in our own sort of world canon, that that exposing the kindred existence via masquerade breaches is uh, is definitely paramount. So if there's I would say that that is perfect justification for those two.
I actually quite like those two. Just in terms of my own character, they fit in really well.
Hmm.
I'm gonna lose a lot of humanity probably, but
same here.
alright, so what are the two that you guys are deciding on?
Protect the innocent from harm, and the other was disobedience is dishonor.
One that I was looking at that kinda is um that I like just to sound without a cause you are nothing. So just
Hmm.
doing shit for willy nilly. I don't know. But I don't know how we would enforce that. I just read it and I liked it.
Yeah, it's one of those that it has a good ring to it, but it's
Yeah.
definitely
Like
one of
I
those.
after like saying it, I'm like, shit, how would we enforce that? Like
The-
what would that play into?
So, to me, that's always been a really good Anarch tenant.
Especially for Bruja, yeah.
Like, that is an amazing Anarch tenant.
Yeah,
Because,
because the Anarchs is a cause. The
yeah,
Camarilla is maintaining the status quo in a in a in a sense.
you can do it for Camarilla. I can make an argument for it.
Yeah.
But I think that it's one of those, it's inherently good for an Anarch style of play.
And it's inherently good for those kinds of coteries that are on a sort of purpose, where your coterie is assigned a purpose. If you want your coterie to be assigned a purpose, then absolutely that would be something that would work, and the cause that you are set force towards would be your assignment, whatever that assignment might be.
Oh,
So,
oh,
I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
have to change my feeding type.
No, I think there is a
I
way
see
to end up
one.
making it work for Camarilla.
mm,
but that's specifically, you have to now play up to the idea that, because you know on how one of the key points of the Camarilla's perspective is they are shepherds of humanity,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
That is your purpose, hence why you want to get stuck in like a tick when it comes down to humanity, gain the influence, gain the money, get the
Mm-hmm.
power, etc.,
You buy
because
into
that's
all of that.
ultimately,
Yeah.
that's playing into what the Camarilla typically wants to do, or how it typically operates, right?
Right.
That's how it has become the behemoth that it is.
Mm-hmm. I can
So
see that as a good argument.
if you wanted to flip it for a Camarilla one, that's how you would do it.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that I always liked is respect others and demand respect. But
He is a natural Bruja.
Mm-hmm.
But
you guys did type me as that when we thought of like if in real life what would we be in clan wise. I am definitely a
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
but I will say this, just because the earlier portion of disobedience is dishonor, it's it's a drastic, believe it or not, it is drastically different from obey authority. It is actually drastically different.
Mm.
There's, and it's mostly in the like 20% difference on how it's going. So obey authority is anytime somebody above you ends up calling for it, right? But disobedience is dishonor is a case of it is trying to end up reinforcing it more of a cultural norm of that idea of honor, or that idea of presenting to oneself nobly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that it leans very much in the Ventrue case more than anything, but it is a point of difference.
Well, it kind of
Um,
leans into Warsi as well, because Warsi, while he might be a very strict and somewhat militant prince, he does carry himself with dignity.
yeah.
Like, while he might wear a mask, he is well dressed. He is always presentable, and and
Well,
conveying that kind of honor is important at his court.
well, one that might fit in just because of how you were describing the area.
Hmm.
The guilty should suffer because he definitely purged who he thought was in his eyes. So that might be like a tenant for.
Those who went against Camarilla rule.
Oh, really?
No. I'm saying like he has purged everybody who has gone against
Oh,
Camarilla
that.
rule.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
you said
yeah.
it was against Camarilla rule. Okay.
No,
No,
Yeah.
no,
no.
he
Yeah,
used
he
it.
definitely did.
That's
He
would
cleaned
almost
house.
be his tenant to do so.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. He's definitely.
Thinking along the lines of honor too, we could go down the path of courage as the highest virtue.
I like that because it also runs counterplay earlier to disobedience is dishonor. Is there's
Hmm.
points where you may have to,
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Yes.
mm-hmm.
and I do like it when on occasion like those rub against each other. You try and figure out
Where the
shit.
gray
What do I
area
do?
is.
Which one does your, when put between a decision, what defines your character, and then you start to figure that out.
Yep.
So I do like that idea. I don't think I've heard too much from Specs.
Yes,
No, I mean, everything that everyone's suggested is like kind of against feeding type for what I have planned. So I'm like,
Oh no. Okay, so well let's
yeah, it's against my feeding time. So I'm
no
cool with changing my character. That's okay.
no. What's specifically making it wrong against feeding your feeding type?
Anna's a consensualist.
Hmm. What I would
So
Hmm.
right off the
no,
gate, she's already broken 2 chronicle tenants.
no, not necessarily.
And
So
any time that she will have to feed, she will be breaking a chronicle tenant, essentially. Like it's gonna come up almost every
the
single time that she chooses to feed.
okay. No, I think you can work around it without changing. I think you can work around it, and here's a few examples, right? First off, consensualists by nature tend to have a herd. Like that's kind of their default, right? They don't want to go around spreading the information so much, so they tend to work somebody into consensualism over and over again and have a handful of people that they can consistently go to, right?
Mm.
That's the first one. In which case, what you're currently trying to make, and this is important, Coffee's played Swan Song earlier, and I don't demonstrate this in my own games near as frequently, but there are ways to develop vassals. And vassals are a very important thing. That actually can be maybe Anna's niche is trying to end up and creating vassals.
Basically, what had in Swan Song is that there are kindred bars essentially, where you go to get a drink from the house stock, and and that's kind of how you can, it's like public feeding, like a rack would be. So there could be in the city a rack where there are people basically on tap that that would be, you know, more or less consenting to being fed upon.
Okay.
So that is an option. The best way I can describe it, or at least for Anna's position, is perhaps that's the angle, trying to end up finding somebody who they can end up developing. So their natural proclivity
Yeah.
is to make a
Oh,
herd.
don't get me wrong. That was the intended story. It's just like when everyone started throwing out the tenets, I'm like, ah, fuck. So this is going to be a problem every time I feed.
Unless you were ordered to do so, in which case disobedience is dishonor. And if you are at the point where it's you
Well,
know
consensualist does come with the flaw of masquerade breacher, right? Where
Yep.
Yes.
it comes
And
with
that could
that
be
as a
just
risk
you.
already. So I wouldn't double up that risk for you.
Yeah. I think that there's a few workarounds that we can easily end up doing that would not hinder your feeding. It would just be specifically you being on the jobs kind of situation. And I think you can definitely make it work. I do not think you have to change Anna one bit.
Okay. Well,
You could
you
also
think
work
so?
at the angle of you don't have to tell them why you need their blood. Go like the phlebotomy route of you take the blood and consume it in secret.
Yeah,
Maybe.
she has that as an alternative.
Yeah, I'm just throwing shit to see if it sticks to the wall. That's
All right. Well, I mean, you all go off. I don't really have any input. I'm just here for the ride.
Well,
But
your
if it's
your
too
input's
much, like
important, though.
I'd rather change a tenant than a character if it's a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah,
Personally.
absolutely.
It wouldn't be a big change to her. And chances are, if it gets like way too complicated for me, I probably will end up changing it anyways. Maybe. Or I could just kill her off. I don't fucking care, dude.
Well, okay. Well, let's look at Anna real quick.
Yeah,
What
just
is?
no. Continue on. Continue on. It's okay. We'll just continue. I don't really have any input for Chronicle Tenants. I'm not too concerned about it. I'll just try and play to the best of my ability. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, I was just gonna ask, what flaws and traits do you get from being a consensualist? I don't recall off the top of my head, which means I
um,
probably should bring up my book because, haha, I need those.
Yeah, it's generally a good thing to have open while
And
playing again.
generally, yeah.
Might come up once or twice,
Mm-mm-mm.
let's not get sidetracked on it. We'll just continue.
Okay. Well, then what do we propose as a third?
Oh, that's a good one from one of the examples. Act like a person, not a beast. I kind of like that too. But that's also some like animal shit. So my Bruja Gangrelish, so
No,
showing again.
that actually feeds into humanity, believe it or not, because uh,
Yeah.
that's kind of like the the whole, respectability thing, where if you're acting like a beast at 99% of the time, then
Try to put your best foot forward, kind of a deal.
like because that causes breaches and things like that. If you're acting like anything but a person, uh, then that runs the risk of the Second Inquisition catching on, and that's kind of a it's an always background threat. But I don't know if you guys want to do a Second Inquisition plot, or if you want to do something, like as far as overarching what's going on in the city. Because I haven't really fleshed that out all that much yet. But your individual plots are obviously going to be the important thing that we focus on. Uh, so you, that's what we focus on in general.
Instead of second position, I have something that might work. Coffee.
What's up?
A certain character from my background
Mm.
that Miss Volkov, the Justicar.
The Justicar?
Yeah, if shit starts going south instead of the Inquisition coming in, maybe it's time to clean house.
The
Just a
Justicar
thought.
usually, Justicars and Archons like that usually don't ask questions, just wipe a city out and call it done.
Oh, okay.
So there has to be a reason the Justicar would be coming.
Yeah, they're kind of the nuclear response.
They are.
Oh, okay. Well, see, that's my
Archons
inexperience.
maybe are a little bit more investigative, but Justicars, who are above Archons, they're definitely the nuclear option. They are the Camarillas, and we're wiping the city off the map button.
Yeah.
If you did want to look into Second Inquisition, there was a character that I've done up as Alexandra's enemy that could very well tie into that
Mm-hmm.
in terms of a lead.
Well,
We're still trying to figure out tenets first. Let's
So,
kind of
yeah,
keep
we'll
on
come
that
back
track.
to that.
Yeah,
But,
we'll come back to that. That's on the agenda. But we want to
so what do we have?
set you guys as moral standards.
What do we have? Disobedience is dishonor. Protect the innocent from harm. Courage is the highest virtue. The one about being a beast.
Those are all on the list. Yep.
Those are all on the list.
All right, it's disobedience is dishonor. Always obey authority, or what? No, what was compared to? What was the second one?
Protect the innocent from harm. Was the other one that Derek
Yeah,
suggested
that kind of
before.
covers Masquerade already. So if you're looking for something to maybe,
I just felt that protect the innocent from harm seems like something that can very well fit in a Camarilla game.
Yeah.
Because the whole idea is no, we are the shepherds of humanity. Right.
Right.
And,
We
and I
protect
think it
them. We
plays
guide
into
them.
that.
Yeah. Protect them, guide them, but also don't tell them what we're doing. They don't need to know. It's above their pay grade. It's above the mortal's pay grade.
Yep.
So yeah.
So there's those two, and what was the third one? That have we agreed on it, or we're still?
I think everybody's still kind of tossing ideas in the
Yeah.
air. Because you guys seem pretty sold on protect the innocents, as far as a narratively written sort of a thing, and disobedience is dishonor as a sort of narratively moral justification for things. So kind of along those same lines, we're thinking, act like a person, not like a beast, and the other one was
Courage is the highest virtue.
courage. Yeah.
Because I figure courage is the highest virtue, gives us a little bit of wiggle room in that sort of a situation where we do have to go against the grain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do like that. I also like. I think also act like a person, not like a beast, also works in it. In that same vein.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it ends up
It
because
definitely promotes humanity uh, because also just based on the number of characters that I have that Fat Guy has very graciously helped me to randomly generate a little bit. Um, is there is a lot of Lasombra presence, and a lot of the Lasombra presence came from the Sabbat.
taken
And
after Chicago.
yeah, there's a very strong Lasombra presence already, and so with that, it just kind of keeping people on track of acting like people, not like monsters. Definitely plays into that. It also kind of gives a little bit of that wiggle room that you need um, to kind of to kind of be more thoughtful about different actions. Be thoughtful of how you feed. Be thoughtful about how often you feed. Be thoughtful about how you treat others and that sort of a thing. And in a sense, the mortals are not just food. They are also people. So there's a strong there may be a strong sense of morality regarding that in the city as a whole, or maybe just with your coterie, because the chronicle tenants are kind of kind of do set a little bit of the framework morally for the city, but they're primarily for the set of morals that you all share.
I don't know. I was suggesting one, but for part of me, I kind of like the highest virtue for some reason, because like disobedience is dishonor, yes, but you know, following a bad order can lead to worse things. So sometimes you gotta fight it. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, it also means that it also makes it very hard for those characters who are a little more sheepish to be sheepish. Because if I don't know if this is the intent for Anna or not, but you know, kind of being a little bit on the shy side or the fearful side or something like that.
Correction. I do want to make a correction on that.
Hmm.
Being shy is not the same as courage. You can
No,
be
I
and
understand
have
that.
courage. Yeah.
Right, I get that. In I was meaning more in the sense of that is not quick to act out of fear, more like not necessarily that it's like that shyness is like the same ish except in social situations, but in a situation where I don't know, you're in a gunfight.
The the way that I see it is that it gives that wiggle room for those moments when those characters that normally follow the grain to the T and that don't break that mold for whatever reasons, those moments when they do slip out of that to do something that is against the grain, it gives them that little bit of protection for when they do finally do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it encourages those characters that follow things to the letter, whether that be from fear or um, any other reason. It gives them that moment of, well, you can stand up if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
and that's something to be praised.
Mm-hmm. That sounds to me like a couple of you are sold on courage as the highest virtue.
I'd be willing to roll with it.
And you too, Spectre?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it. That's the Chronicle tenets.
So hold on. Going over it again. We have, what was the first one again?
Disobedience is dishonor.
Mhm.
Second one is
Protect the innocent from harm.
yep, protect the innocent from harm.
Okay. And then courage is the highest virtue.
Yeah.
Rad. I'm happy with those.
All right.
It sounds very much like we're a coterie that is trying to do the correct thing.
Trying to do the right thing. Yep. Yep. Definitely.
That's basically my MO of my character. Trying to be a better person even though you really aren't.
Well, try to be as good of a person as you can be in a city full of monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's ultimately, that's probably one of the Camarilla's best arguments, right? Is ultimately it's the masquerade not only protects the kindred from the kind, but it also protects the kindred from their own beasts.
Yep, and from each other.
So there's the best of the Camarilla's propaganda always has some element of philosophy or truth that it's like, yeah, unfortunately, you're gonna have to take your medicine, and this is a conclusion that makes full sense, right? You need to end up making sure that it ends up doing so. Otherwise, what you have is a paper facade that just falls over in 30 seconds, right? And
Right,
you want
right.
something that feels like it's built of old stone.
Very good. Very good. I do like those as Chronicle tenets. So definitely make sure to put those on your sheet so that everybody's fully aware of
Oh, yes.
of what those are. Have any of you had to change your touchstones as a result?
Surprisingly, for the first time when I actually prepared, we did not blow up my touchstones.
Oh, good.
So
Oh, good.
I don't know if I need to reduce them, but I
Nope.
have 4.
Okay. Well, you'll have to whittle it down to 3 because you're allowed 3.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what we're looking at. Good. Nobody has to
Yeah.
really do much outside of that to so just to kind of let's go over the personal tenets, the uh the convictions that these characters might have. So Inspector, what kind of convictions are we looking at for Anna?
Anna's convictions are true love demands sacrifice. This is associated with a very specific touchstone, a guy named Roman. Essentially, when Anna was embraced, her then boyfriend at the time happened to be her first meal. Alas, she kind of tore him apart, as would be, and she begged her sire to save him. So now, as potentially Dr. Vale's ghoul, he has kind of a strange interest in kindred. Though Anna isn't quite sure to what range this is considered a masquerade breach or not.
So even interacting with him is going to get a little bit iffy on the masquerade, and as well as her personal connection and how much she still cares about him. So.
And to make even things better, a couple more stakers for you. He remembers she killed him.
Oh.
That memory
he was
is
on the
not
brink
gone.
of death. Yep. So he's not quite kindred, but he's definitely to save him from the brink of death, he would have had to have been Gould. Yeah, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. The
Just in
second
time.
is, yep. The second is discipline is perfection. Stay in control of yourself. That is through her current therapist, Josephine Peace.
Mm-hmm.
And it has this long-term history. For a very long time, she has hidden some secrets about herself, mostly that she was already a murderer. And in order to try and cover that up, she is essentially just been a great liar, a great manipulator, kept her situation under perfect wraps, except for the fact that all of that anxiety went straight into a complex about the most easily manipulated thing. The easiest thing that you can control in your given environment at any point in time. Food. Ergo, the whole eating disorder aspects of her issues.
Mm-hmm. She has a complex about needing to control things, and then most everything is out of her control, or at least she feels that way, except for that.
Yes. Yes. Do you kind of see how the whole consensual thing feeds into this?
Mm-hmm.
Feeds.
Yes, because it's all
It
about
does.
her control.
Mm-hmm. You'll get to see more about that in her derangement, but those are her convictions
Okay.
and touchstones.
Very nice, very nice. What about Alexandra? What kind of convictions is she working with?
Alex is working with the truth is sacred, thou shalt not lie.
Mm. A Trabert who's not a liar.
She is not a liar. In
I
fact, she
remember how
actually
well this worked
really,
out the first time.
yeah, she actually really hates witnessing people lie and con others,
Mm.
and it's just something that she really doesn't like.
Why
And
does
she
this
didn't like it
remind
in
me of
life,
Frank?
and she didn't like it in life. She doesn't like it after death. Um, and the touchstone that's attached to that is named Mary, and Mary is a very skilled con artist that works as a psychic in the area. And even though everything is like way off, she still manages to maintain a uh, reputable reputation amongst the local Wiccan and pagan communities.
Mm-hmm.
And Alexandra uses her as kind of this, I don't want to have a tongue like that. I
Even
don't
though
want
it's
to be
gotten her
like
good
that.
gains, it's gonna bite her in the ass someday.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then the other one, she's got two touchstones, two convictions. The other one's a little bit more complicated. Um, it is respect the Wiccan Reed and the 10 rules.
Mm.
Um, so the Wiccan Reed, and this is gonna fuck her up something shocking. And at harm none, do what thou wilt. So basically meaning don't harm anyone if you can avoid it. Otherwise, do whatever the hell you want. And the 10 rules take responsibility, center yourself when performing, cleanse your energy field, clear the path, eat properly, breathe in clean air, take regular exercise, sleep restfully, expand the love in your life, and have faith in your power.
Mm.
So she's got a lot that she's got to follow.
Okay.
And that's attached to a young lady named Angela, who is a regular in her magic store, the House of Sage, and she's become one of Alexandra's closest friends.
All right. I definitely like
Yeah.
that as a. I definitely like that as a conviction. Essentially, so long as it doesn't harm anyone, do whatever you want.
Yep.
And that's specifically doesn't harm any person.
Yes.
That's how you're interpreting that. Okay.
Yes.
All right. What were we working with Shriek?
Never reveal a source. That's
Mm.
by the investigative journalist Mary Holt.
Mm.
And specifically that also ends up tying, because I did something a little bit interesting here. I tied both of my touchstones into 2 of my contacts.
Okay.
So it should be frequent, or so fairly here frequent responses. Helps simplify things down. It is an eggs all in one basket kind of situation
Yeah.
where, my contacts in news is obviously through Mary, and Mary was, in fact, the individual who Shriek used to be a cameraman for.
Uh-huh.
Until they had a run in and they had to lawyer up, which is how we ended up meeting the lawyer, Tyrone Faulkner. And from Tyrone, Shriek has ended up taking, then render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's. So whatever is owed, he will end up paying.
Okay.
But if you owe him, it will be rendered unto Caesar. So this puts him sometimes in conflict of, for instance, honoring any kind of order if it comes into conflict with, say, a boon or something like that. Or he feels that, no, this person is deserving of X, Y, and Z, and they're not getting their due. Then, well, no, you will render under Caesar. So it will end up playing into that. That kind of turns into this case of, so long as you play within the rules, we're fine. The second you play outside of the rules, he's going to end up going out of his way to end up making sure that every debt is paid.
Okay, so I think I need to have a little bit of clarity on that. When you say render unto Caesar, what is Caesar's? Is that render unto the Camarilla, render unto the prince, render unto the individual who
It is
asked?
it is to whoever the insert whatever it is belongs to, who is owed it.
Okay, so
Right.
to the individual it's owed. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so in always pay your debts, kind of a deal.
Yeah, but to him, it's something that doesn't. He refuses to end up letting things slide if he's not even involved. But if he knows about it, this shit needs to be corrected
Okay.
with the quickness.
Yeah, because often when I think of render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, it is often it is in regards to like if you have an authority over you and the thing that you're doing is owed, like I guess owed to them, like then do that. Then that is a must. Like that is
So maybe to help, maybe a little bit of clarification. This is actually a Bible quote.
yeah, it is. Yeah, in which Jesus is telling those around him that
Whose coin or whose face is upon the coin?
whose face is upon the coin. Well, it's Caesar's face. Well, then render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Do you give that give that coinage that has Caesar's face on it to him? Pay your taxes. Basically, is the
Yeah,
kind of common vernacular. Pay what is owed. If you owe this, then pay it. And that's kind of like a like a proclamation to others.
Which is why he ends up looking at what others end up doing in that regard, and why he'll enforce that. Which makes it very interesting when we end up mixing that in with the 3 chronicle tenets. There are some interesting mix-ups that can happen depending on where the story goes.
Yep, he's definitely gonna run into a little bit of a little bit of trouble in that regard, because if he tries to tell somebody no, you owe something, he's gonna effectively work a little similarly to I don't know what role exactly, kind of make sure that debts are
I
paid.
think you're thinking of Harpy Harpies
The
seem
harpy
to
often does
really
that. Does that?
track,
Okay.
it tracks who owes who.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Shriek would be a fabulous harpy. Um,
The only problem is you need an exterminator anywhere he goes.
oh
And so
no.
the biggest thing I'm learning from our session 0 is to take up stock in the local exterminators and buy shares in their
You know,
success.
if you were a venture, that would probably be the way you would end up handling it. It's like, how do we
Mm-hmm.
twist this around?
I've also brings up a good point about that line, the render unto Caesar. The second part of that is also render unto God what is God's. So give
That
Caesar
is
your
exactly.
taxes and give God your worship.
Yep, I've
So,
got it.
yep, that is the line.
It is to hit the give to which is due.
Yep, to those who which it is due. Yep, that makes sense. Definitely makes sense. So yeah, definitely, definitely enjoying that so far. So Cain,
Hmm.
Speaking
like
of biblical
speaking
references,
of the Bible, Cain Tenebris.
Yeah, it's definitely no allegories there. No, it doesn't mean shit. It was just picked at random. Um, no,
Sure.
his first tenant that's very important to him uh is embodied by a man named Teddy Atlas who runs and trains the fighters at his gym
Mm.
and is a man that teaches everybody that you give respect but you also demand respect. You're only as good as put yourself forward. And
Give respect, demand respect. Okay.
yeah.
Like he feels he's
Uh,
owed respect.
well, if you don't respect yourself and respect those around you, nobody's going to respect you. So you got to hold yourself to a higher standard and not just be a dunce. A lot of people that go into gyms and such of the like, when they go in, they after spending enough time there, they can come out different people with a little bit more of what's the word? Um,
Ego.
no, not ego. It's like shit. I'm blanking. Like they come out better. They come out with like more purpose and like
Driven,
it's
maybe.
it's it's the same thing that happened to me in my youth because I was a little shit and when I got into the fire department, it taught me to
you're
be like
talking about forging. You're talking
yeah,
about
basically.
forging character. You put
Yeah,
yourself through a
and
fire and remake.
there's a word I'll think of it eventually, but yeah,
Tempered.
that's um
You are tempered.
yeah,
So give
but
respect, demand respect kind of works into
yeah.
that.
Um second is the person that embodies it is a person named Bonnie Bennett who was a caseworker from his youth.
Mm.
This is a person that never promised him the moon. Always was very blunt in what she expected and what he can expect and work toward what they can actually do instead of don't worry, everything will be fine. You'll get adopted. No. She she never did that and from her he learned to always keep your sworn word. You
Mm.
don't tell people what they want to hear. You don't say and promise things that you can't do because you're only as good as your word.
Mm.
If
Mm.
you break that, then no one's going to trust you.
Okay. Okay. So I can see how that the give respect also kind of ties into that as part of that is uh if you if you are true to your word, people will default. People will default to respecting you.
Yeah. And the last one was a chance encounter coming late home late night. Um Found a woman being attacked in an alley and in one of the very few times lost his temper, but seeing that he basically, in his mind, he was justified that with what he did. He didn't like doing it. He doesn't like being. He doesn't mind the fighting. He doesn't mind, in competition. He never liked what he had to do in his youth, but he also believes that sometimes it can be justified that you do bad things for a good reason, and that's the guilty should suffer. That people need to be paid their dues as well. That if you put out that bad juju, you deserve it to come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
It's another thing of, it's a question of character.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I built.
Okay.
I kind of built around his, like, that's what he holds dear, and like the way his mind works.
Right. So he doesn't act flippantly. He acts with purpose, and which kind
Instead
of
of, if something came up and it was going bad, he would very calmly say, "This is not really where we want to go with this. It will not end this well," and try to do everything he can to have it not come to a terrible end.
right. So, which makes him
He
a very
doesn't just
interesting
act
La
willy.
Sombra, because La Sombra are
Yeah.
La Sombras are sledgehammers, not scalpels, and so with Kane, I wonder how often he's going to be butting up against his own nature to
Oh, he's going to aspire to be better. It doesn't mean he's going to be better, and that's his
because
downfall.
La Sombra compulsions and that whole dominate like have dominion over a person is probably going to be the compulsions he struggles with the most.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
I set myself to kick myself in the teeth. Set myself up to kick myself in the teeth quite a
You're
bit.
not that flexible.
I wish.
Sledgehammers can be scalpels. Make anything large enough and it'll hit with precision. Well, if it's gotten that big, then you're in trouble. But yeah, that's kind of what we're working with when it comes to our characters' kind of moral compass. Kind of a lot of pay your boons, a lot of protecting of the innocents, a lot of doing what you need to, when you need to, because you need to, or because you're told to. So I think this coterie is definitely along the lines of very sort of duty oriented. Like they have a duty to something.
That is Camarilla.
Yeah, and so as part of that duty, they take their job very seriously. So that's so what do y'all feel that duty is? Specifically, not just to the Camarilla, but what that driving mechanism sort of is, specifically to your particular assignment.
That's a hard question, Coffee.
Let's think here. We got
a would-be wizard. If it helps, you can always check out the coterie types and kind of get some inspiration from there, because different coterie types have different sort of missions, as it were, as far as their duties in their given stories. Which kind of would create a bit of a kind of the overarching plot in a way. So this is the kind of thing that you guys will consistently be doing if you're not pursuing your other personal plots. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with that. Your coterie type is kind of going to define your overarching story.
Let me look it up.
Yeah, I'm looking.
It's a hard choice. In the book you can use to uh, kind of get an idea of the kinds of coteries that there are there, but you could always conceptualize it in other ways.
I'll actually be right
Well,
back, real.
Oh, okay.
so 3 stick out to me that look could be cool. But that one. The 2 I whittled it down to 2 already.
Mm-mm.
That like for me, Regency and Veem.
Okay, so Regency. What is a Regency type? Elder of the
Elder
Cameron
of
that
the
chose
oh,
or
sorry.
created the coterie to guard their legacy as as they were beckoned into the Middle East. They hold the elders' vote amongst the Primogen.
Oh no, I didn't see that. I just saw the first part that we were created to protect their shit.
Yeah,
We effectively, as a coterie, serve as a placeholder for them as they have departed out to the east.
mm-hmm. The beckoning
Which isn't a bad.
is also something that's kind of plaguing the elders of the city of the cities of Dallas and Fort Worth.
Yeah. So that wouldn't actually be half bad, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right next to it's the other one that looked interesting.
the VtM, named for and possibly descended from the Vigilante Secret Society in medieval Germany. Primogen tasked this coterie to protect the masquerade at all costs. The VtM has the authority to arrest and subdue violators if need be, to bring them before the Prince and Primogen. So,
Probably a proactive one.
definitely very proactive. You could be, since there are a number of hounds in this city, because the cities, plural, are huge.
They can't be everywhere at
Can't be
once.
everywhere at once. Same with the sheriff. So they would
We can be
have.
the pups.
I'm. I think that's a good one. I'm also looking at either Blood Cult or Hunting Party.
Blood cult or hunting party? Let's look at blood cults. Formerly condemned as violations of the masquerade, blood cults have nevertheless resurged with the coming of Gehenna. This coterie entices mortal worshippers, feeding them vitae or enslaving them. Many blood cults reveal enough supernatural truth, though not always vampiric lore, to alert the Second Inquisition, adding yet more applicable foes. And then the other you said was Hunting Party. This coterie specializes in hunting and capturing humans with particular qualities of blood. With knowledge of and taste for humors and resonances spreading among thin blood cookers and Toreador Garamons alike, coteries on the make often choose to become coteries on the prowl for others.
So
Okay.
the idea here
Yeah.
is that
Kind of hunting for the
where the ones
circulatory system, sort of thing.
yeah, or the court's personal stock, so they don't owe the circulatory system. After all, that's not a group you want to be indebted to.
No, true.
Uh,
What about
Hunting
the one
vessels for bars
directly?
and things like that too.
What about the one directly under Hunting Party, the Markiel?
Marshal. The coterie
Yeah, that
serves
one.
and guards the prince or baron, doing their bidding as attendants and hatchmen. Their direct access to the ruler means that influential elders attempt to insert their childer into the coterie. Indeed, every member of the coterie may be Primogen. Elders left out use every means at their disposal to turn or break the coterie to their advantage.
That's the third one I was looking at, but I didn't know if you'd want to put us directly under the Prince or Baron.
Well, I'm thinking about our particular skill sets, because we've got a very unique Nosferatu, with their capabilities. We've got a very talented Tremere with blood magic. We've got
The La
a
Sombra
beater,
heavy. Yep.
a La Sombra beater, And then we've got this outlier Malkavian, I do believe she is.
Malkavian, kind of she's consensualist. She's
Just say it
And
how it
that's
is. It's complication.
she's an
well,
she's an outlier. She's an outlier and a wild card.
I was gonna say cult leader, but yeah.
It's that kind of a coterie that you kind of want to be in close and kind of molding to what you want them to be.
Yeah. That's kind of like with Marichal and the one with the where the Prunjin, like, you're guarding their shit and their voice. It was the same thing of like they want us to be there. They want us doing what they want. They want us. We're the new tools that they can use to make things easier for themselves. We're the cogs that they're custom building.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, like, if that, or like, even if it's something like that, Cerberus would always work. Of We're there to protect something, as opposed to, it's different flavors of the same thing. Just who's running us and what do we want to protect?
Mm-hmm.
What is our job? There are a lot of, different flavors, but they're all ice cream.
Yeah, there's quite a number of them that are very similar in that regard.
And all, like, I guess one thing it depends on is there any kind of overarching plot that you want in for the coffee? I know we have our personal plots that's going to take main stage, but
Mm.
you know,
I haven't fully decided on that yet because I have in the chronicles that we've done on this channel, the the first real antagonist we did in San Antonio by Night was an invasion force. The 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 antagonist for Aftermath was a little less defined. It was more of a struggle to survive versus the barony. Uh, in Jackson, obviously there was the ever looming Anarch threat, and then in Austin it was another kindred threat in that it was it was a familial thing, and so we've done a lot of kindred threats when it comes to the chronicles we've done on this channel so far. So I'm uh, I'm kind of leading to more of a mortal threat where the antagonist is more on the mortal side of things, but I can be swayed to other things. Whatever story that you guys are wanting to tell, that's what I'm here to do.
I had coffee. I don't know if you still have it, but I had a pin for the idea, and I suppose this is a good time to suggest it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I gave an idea to Coffee some time ago that connected back to some previous games a bit. Coffee made the suggestion that one of his characters would be making a surprise appearance pretty soon. And I won't spoil who it is, but if he does return, associated with it, it's a character from Edmonton.
Oh yeah.
And apparently, supposedly, due to some fucky-wucky timey-wimey shit, ended up falling into Dallas somehow. My suggestion is that you got space. The void equals space, right?
Mm.
So what if there is an alternative to that, the other axis, which is time? We've had a lot of interactions with the ley lines within previous games.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'd be more interesting if, via these ley lines, it is not just space that can be interacted with, but time. So what I mean by this is going to get weird. Bear with me.
We
What
like
if
weird. We have a Tremere.
What if the Tremere as a whole within Dallas were messing around with the ley lines to try and access these two axes, both space and time, in order to affect the material world?
Mm.
Because I found
attention.
I found a thing, and it's called Malkavian time, where all Malkavian are connected through the Madness network.
Through the web.
Yes, and time has no association to it, but in a way can also be manipulated in order to send messages. What if the Tremere were trying to access that?
The Malkavian web?
Yes, so that they had access to the web, which is an axis of time, and the La Sombra presence, and the Void is an axis of space.
There is some heavy somber presence going on right now, because I'm going to bring up my Photoshop to show you just how much we've kind of built in the La Sombra range. So, just pulling it up here on Photoshop. So, the things that are kind of tied to Cain and everything are his sire. There's a couple of people involved in the trafficking rings. The Keeper of Elysium is apparently a La Sombra, and then the Primogen of the La Sombra. So already there's a very sort of strong presence there. Even and this is before really I developed much more than this when it came to the Nosferatu presence in the city. As defined as it is right now. So with the prince obviously being Nosferatu, they are probably the most powerful clan in the cities. Just by probably sheer volume, because you never know how many Nosferatu are really present. But a lot of these La Sombra were adopted from when they said goodbye to the Sabbat. So,
well, even just like, while that idea sounds complicated, it could also bring about a really simple adversary. If you're fucking about in time and space, you don't know who or what you're going to open up or bring through or send back. So
that is one of the ideas I suggested to Coffee.
So like, if there is you guys like know a lot about the lore. Coffee, do you have a favorite character that you would love to throw at us as a big bad? Or someone that wants to screw with us? Or like someone from a time that was trying to do something and they ended up showing up in our time and started enacting their plots in our
Or another thought is you could take somebody from another time and space as well and drop them in. Maybe somebody that maybe swore vengeance against the Camarilla or something like that.
So, hey, Coffee, you remember how they were saying that Tyler was coming to Dallas?
So I'm gonna end up stating my biggest concern, and that is whenever you start playing around with time travel in any regard, what you are also inviting is two core factors. One, that you are able to end up messing around with and playing with established canon, which the second portion of it is the more concerning one, which means nothing really matters at that point, because anything can be retconned and destroyed on a whim, and hence the nature of the story means absolutely jack and shit.
Yeah, I kind of want to keep it fairly simple in that regard. So
that's my biggest concern, because, and you guys know I'm a comic book geek, So,
Yeah.
like,
We don't want to run
this
into
happens
we don't want
so
to run
much.
into the comic book thing where we're constantly fighting for the end of the world because
No,
Yeah.
it's
personally,
happening in
like,
every arc of everything.
Like
But really,
you
the
can
core.
go ahead.
I was gonna say the core of where I was getting at though is just generally I think it would be cool to actually get more into the occultish stuff because we have explored other kindred as threats. We have explored humans as threats. Like
And
Ish.
I
Yeah.
don't
you can do some stuff with the occult, certainly.
yeah.
My biggest concern is when you start bringing in time travel and
Yeah,
multidimensional.
no, it's
It starts
that
to
was
end up
just
going a little bit
that
off
was
the
my
rails.
comic book geek going like, well, do you have a favorite thing that you want to throw at us? But
Yeah,
personally, what?
I just I thought it
I
was a
have to
fun
play devil's
concept.
advocate on that one.
Right.
I'm
No, I
sorry,
know.
but I have to.
No, I know. I completely get it. You're the other side of the coin that I was thinking about. Like, while that would be cool, but I don't know if it. The easiest thing for me, what I think is, if we're going for something like Marischal, where we're under the Prince or the Baron, they're not going to be Prince or Baron and live for that long without really having an enemy or two that are going to try to fuck with our city.
What
That's the
you would
easy route.
That's the easy route. Another
Given
route you
how
can
big the
take.
city is, though, I kind of don't want to directly tie you all to the prince because I want you
Well, it
to
doesn't have to be
work
the
toward it.
Prince, but yeah,
No,
that doesn't it doesn't have to be the Prince. It could be anybody that of someone just of station,
Mm-hmm.
not even of the highest stations,
yeah, because
but
I get the
they just
impression
have
like
clout.
this is a big enough city where not only do you have a primogen for the major respective clans individually, so
Mm-hmm.
it's not a smaller city where you only have two primogen, representing the high and
No,
low
yeah, we're
clans.
talking about an
You
8
have,
million people plus sort of
yeah,
suburban, like
but you
metropolitan
also
and suburban areas.
but you also have whips working under the primogen, keeping everybody in line, et cetera, et
Mm-hmm.
cetera. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a few ways you can end up taking that. The one I'm thinking about when it comes down to the occult, right? You can start playing around with the ley lines, certainly. Um, the You can also talk about what is it? Etch time. If you play Bloodlines, think the haunted house where you were getting, or the haunted hotel where you were getting flashbacks, and you couldn't interact with time, but
But you can
you
watch
can
it.
you could watch it, you can observe it, you can bear witness to.
Mm.
Those moments in time where you're here when working with that. You also have to end up here considering that the very nature of kindred means that and it's one of the older cities in in most of America. You got a lot of buried history there. You got a lot of stuff you can end up playing off of, and you
Mm.
can kind of get a chance to like explore that a bit more. The other portion of it is that Tremere tend to also be, I hesitate to use the word innovator, but that's not far off. They tend to end up wanting to explore alternative means for blood and sorcery.
Yeah.
And that tends to end up making situations that are a double edged sword quite frequently and tend to backfire horribly.
I
There's a reason most people don't trust Tremere.
The one thing,
Experimental in the mad scientist way.
I
the one,
have a weird suggestion
Sure. Yeah, go ahead, Specs.
for a theme. What if it's more occult versus human, where we take more of the theme coterie background thing, and we're trying to stop humans from discovering major occult secrets, not necessarily just kindred, but like
Mm-hmm.
there is a very significant occult secret in the city,
Well, I've kind
and
of
we're
uh, I've definitely suggested that the ley lines have major intersections in in Texas, and one of those hubs is San Antonio, and the other major nexus would be probably close to Dallas.
mm,
So a
one,
major nexus, is going to have spooky shit happening. Where in Austin, it was a little less so because the ley line, for one, wasn't very close, and two, it wasn't a nexus of any kind. It was just a single point, a single line. It was more of a random occurrence sort of a thing. Uh,
Yeah. So, I mean, you want a human threat. What if humans are trying to get at that? A human organization is trying to get into that.
mm-hmm. Human cults definitely would factor into that. So
Mm.
the supernatural always tends to draw those that would worship it.
Yeah. It's just a thought. But I'll shut up now.
No, you don't have to shut up. Well, I love your input. I want you to feel like you have, like, this is your story to tell too.
One thing gave me an idea.
Mm.
Black Wolf has been suggesting things in chat that do seem cool. But one thing that gave me an idea is he talked about if, with all the spooky shit that happens in Exodus, the thought it gave me is, what if we get a memory or a ghost of some kind that gives us information that there's a bad vein going through the Camarilla that needs to be torn out, that is undermining it and working to take out the leadership or something.
Well, that's already happened off screen. That was the purge.
Oh,
Kind
never
of
mind.
kind of don't need a second purge unless there's something festering.
That's what I was getting at, but never mind.
Yeah, Black Wolf says, what about a mage or stopping humans from awakening as mages? Which actually sounds really interesting.
I also don't want to do a whole lot of crossover though. A random like the periodic antagonist from other source material from World of Darkness, okay, but not as a central focus, if that makes sense. It would be, if I were to do something like that, it would be a mage has developed their mageness while working with the SI. Something like that, where it's a single occurrence, maybe, maybe two, that just happens to be part of something else. Not something. I don't want a group of mages to be the antagonist because I don't want to have to go looking at mage. uh,
That's fair
I'm
enough.
I'm already kind of debating whether or not I want to include capital H hunters in any sense because one, it's a supernatural thing, and for two, that's also digging into more source material, and I don't want to do a whole lot of that either. Um, and so, while it might be thematically appropriate, it would still be those one-off antagonists, if anything. Um,
I think you have a lot to work with and a lot of
mhm.
ideas to maybe sift through.
But that's the whole point of session zero is for is for sifting through these ideas to kind of get what you guys are looking for in a game in the game. What
Cults.
you
I'm
want to
looking for cults.
you want cults,
Human kindred. I don't give a fuck. Just give me cults, man.
cults.
Cults.
I like the idea of a human threat.
Hmm.
Um, I would be really interested to see how you would play off a second Inquisition threat.
Because we've touched on it, but we haven't really done it as a major threat. It's always been a minor
Like,
threat.
it's been there in the backs of our heads the entire time.
Hmm.
It's just, and with a city this big, like the more kindred you have in an area, the higher the chance of getting caught.
And also that does start to bring up the, well, is this a Detroit situation as a plausible plot? Because if we're talking about that big of a threat, it is SI's going nuclear, sort of option. And so, is that the story I want to tell? because we have kind of linked the two worlds between Macabre Derek's channel and my channel, and assorted others that they are indeed connected, and they do have information about each other, and so something
Well,
like that could happen again. But do we want that?
So for me, just personally speaking, what I specifically built Shriek in mind for was a lot of espionage, a lot of court drama, like especially when it comes down to the fact that this character is not built to interact with Elysium on a frequent basis, lest we end up bringing
You bring your extermination crew with you. Yep.
yeah. But I did end up specifically building to end up interacting with court or being just on the outside of Elysium in that regard.
Right.
Um,
Being very much ears to the ground when it comes to the higher politics.
yeah. And the other portion of it is that balancing out between court and the mortal world. That's initially where I was going with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also going to lean onto that a little bit because I know that's your strength as a storyteller.
Yeah.
Your strength as a storyteller has always been the person.
Oh yeah.
And
That's not the question here. The question is
I get it, but the reason we're talking about like the larger threat and all that is like, okay, when we think about this, is this something we can make personal?
Yes.
Right?
That is the
rather
question.
than just assigned. That's where I'm going with this.
Right.
And so far what I'm hearing is stuff that is very, very nebulous in nature, but not really refined into okay, well, let's say if this did happen, what are you doing? Like, how does this impact you outside of being directly ordered?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What makes this put you have skin in the game that isn't just a universal?
Right. Yeah. Because this is gonna kind of influence how your enemies act, how your adversaries act, how the city will act toward you. Uh, the the with this sort of overarching thing being the kind of general feel of how the court is. Like, do you kind of like the court and the city? Like, do you want to be uh constantly just butting heads with those around you? Do you want to be uh you want to build cults? Well, okay. uh how big of a threat do I need to make this cult? How big of an issue does like the fact that Dr. Keller does not like Dr. Vale, and they're both Malkavian, and that uh, that sort of thing. How does that, and the 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 greater sort of story about the city affects a lot of that, where the individual stories that you guys are telling are your interactions with each other, with your personal NPCs, with and how those connections on the street level work. Like the higher court, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of interaction with them because there are just that many kindred. You have access to your primogen at all times, of course, but like beyond that, like you're rarely ever going to see, the prince or the seneschal or sheriff or anything like that, except for Elysium Knights.
I just thought I would bring that up as
Mm-mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I
Good point.
You
and
design Shriek to be the face.
the other part of it is, and this has always been my worry, right? You want an escalation to be in. You want the escalation enough to be really. Here's what I typically do, right? I talk about, okay, what's the status quo, right? Try and figure that out first.
Yeah.
And then it's one thing interrupts it. What is that one thing?
Yeah.
and that trickles down. What this is an opportunity or a shift,
Right.
because like the Camarilla really, really what it does best, what it's designed for, is the idea of trying to end up interweaving yourself amongst the politics goings on, the backroom dealings, the you know, all the illegal activity, all of the stuff that's being hidden behind the prince's back, and all this, and everybody trying to jockey for position as you end up growing, right? That's its inherent strength, right?
Mm-mm.
And like very first thought I had, like with the mage one, is comes in and suddenly everything goes boom, and I'm going, okay, well, where do we go from there?
Yeah.
And
It has to. It has
that's
to.
what
Has to. Has to build. Yeah.
that's what I feel like we kind of get hung up on. Does that make sense? Is the fact that we're like, okay, this would be a cool idea. All right, and where are we going with this?
Mm-mm.
You just thought it was a cool idea, and we realized we painted ourselves in a corner. I think Moxie's smiling because they see it. Like, yep, that's exactly what keeps happening, right? So
Right.
let's.
Yeah. The status quo for the city is everything is on a timetable and everything is perfect.
Yeah, it is the idealistic American Camarilla City.
Exactly.
Um,
It is exactly that. It puts
yeah.
on that kind of.
So something would happen, right? It's something that happens that ends up making it. Yeah, brought these either brought these kindred together, or these kindred were brought together beforehand, and then something happened. Now, this doesn't necessarily involve us. Keep that in mind. This is just here's a shift to the status quo and what makes the
This is
setting
the
worth covering,
framing event. Yeah.
right? And that can keep trickling into our own lives kind of situation. That can keep informing, okay, what are we accounting for? A
Well, part
perfect
of.
example of this actually was in the previous Chronicle, where we ended up having the meeting where we ended up having the Dawn and Della Rosa, right? That was
Mhm.
this you can feel the Doppler shift when we ended up hearing that news, right?
And there are effects to that in Dallas too.
And it keeps trickling down, right? So
The Purge from
that
Dallas is also still a framing-ish event that happened. So there is still people on like characters on the lookout for anarchs or dissenters. They're still looking for them if there are any left. So that's uh,
and
that's still going on.
what I'm seeing here is you can definitely play into that portion of supernatural.
Because
You
I
can
want to give you
definitely
guys that if you're
oh yeah,
wanting it.
absolutely. But you would need to end up thinking of it, and this honestly feels like something you need to keep hidden more than anything in order for it to be a discovery of some sort. Maybe
Mm-mm.
there was something discovered, and suddenly the elders start making really weird orders, and I don't need to explain myself to you, Lick. And we can go about following orders no problem and get to the end of it, and all of a sudden some shit has happened, and we're like, okay, how'd that happen? Or we can actually end up starting to go, okay, they're keeping something hidden. There's something big that the Camarillas working towards. Clearly, the Tremere are involved. And this, in turn, ends up making it a case of trying to end up figuring out, okay, what is actually going on and how do we get ahead of it before we accidentally end up just getting crushed under it?
Mm-hmm.
Which you can play off of a fair amount. And it turns into a case of you're leading into the mysteries of the court, you're leading into playing into the occult, because you do have quite a bit going for you because of how old of a city it is, all
Mm.
things considered. And you can play around with a few different
Oh
things
yeah.
where, like digging up an elder that
Mm-mm.
been buried under the city for how long, and it's been
That's an
feeding on the
option.
waylines. Guess
Mm.
what? You have that to end up playing around with.
We've
Or
also
seeing
hinted
clear.
at we've also kind of hinted in the lore a little bit, for at least my chronicles, that Nexus points tend to stave off the beckoning.
Yeah. And so we have these little things to end up contending with, and to play off on that might end up helping, especially if Warsy's trying to keep praxis. And that's something that we here get caught in the middle of, right? Because, well, kindred politics, we know how that typically goes. I don't know if I'm sorry, I feel like I'm taking up too much time right now.
No, you're just spitballing some ideas. That's what we're here for.
Actually, I'm very, very interested in this, what you've just been saying. Because as you've been talking, I've been thinking about Alex's perspective on all of this. Because she's come across from basically Brisbane. So she's come from an entirely different culture of Camarilla and is coming into this city. So Brisbane, Camarilla was very different to
Run.
what happens over here.
Yeah.
So she's got to adapt to all of that. And then when you start throwing in elders start acting strange, and like, because she's also seen the Australian version of Anarchs and all that kind of stuff as well, it's going to make her start questioning, well, why is it so different between the two?
And Australia just had Camarilla has just different survival mechanisms.
That's
They're just
exactly
in a
right.
different environment.
Just
With
geographically,
the
even. Yeah.
with the recent introduction of the La Sombra into it, yeah, you're talking about immortal, very petty elders. Yeah, a lot of them are not going to let that fly. So that's a fun bit for Kane to go through. Where it's like, yeah, we need you as a strong arm. Doesn't mean we trust you. Uh, you're here because we lost the Bruja and the Gangrel. Don't forget that. We may need you for now. That doesn't mean we gotta like you. And there is that. There is going to be that animosity because that is you can almost think of them as the old families, right? That's kind of how you have to think about it in the Camarilla.
Just because we
context.
embraced you doesn't mean you're automatically part of the family.
Yeah. So, well, if for this case, right, you think of each clan and what it is almost like its own crime family.
Yeah.
Right. I think Moxie can appreciate that distinction. But because of that, like you have members of various families, they're kind of the representative of their own families in that regard, and we got to work towards a certain goal that might end up working out, might not. And this also works well for Anna in that regard because Anna's big thing tends to end up coming from her connection to the cobweb, her need for blood, the fact that she's a consensualist. This is where you start finding your status quo. You're there to find the blood. You're there to find the secrets. You're there to be the leg breaker. You're there to tell us what the hell hoogity boogity shit has just suddenly rolled into town. And that's where you start, and then suddenly something shifts, and we don't know what the hell it is, but everybody's acting a little weird, and that's for you to decide, Coffee. But it now turns into a case of the more we know, the more we're able to get on the inside, the more we're able to get ahead of this, and potentially end up finding ourselves becoming more acclimated into the court, being able to rise the ranks and what have you. Because if you aren't climbing, if you are end up in one of two positions. You are either sitting neutral and end up becoming utterly disposable, or two, you end up being in a situation where you're just perpetually stuck in the same location in lockstep because you don't want to ripple the pond.
No, and from what I gather from all the cast, the characters presented so far, is that they're not happy with just the status quo.
Yeah.
They want to rise the ranks. They want to be more than just a Malkavian, a Tremere, a Nosferatu, a La Sombra. They want to be the of each of these clans, the face of the the blood cult, the blood cultivator, the strong man, the occult knowledge purveyor, those kinds of they want their role kind of cut out of the city for them, and so that they have it. And so these characters are not going to be stationary, that's for sure. They don't need really a call to action. They just need to be in a spot. Good, and they'll do something
Ambitious.
about it. Yeah, they're ambitious. Where, certain other characters, probably from the NPC list, will probably be more like, nah, I'm cool with where I'm at. As long as nobody bothers me, I'm cool where I'm at. And I don't see that being the truth for any of these characters. These characters are motivated by something. So,
A group of doers.
group of doers. And they will do something. That's for sure. Well, we can come back to that if we're feeling a little stuck. Because there's definitely a lot of food for thought for me to think about. And there's a lot of food for thought for y'all to think about as well. So we're going to take a quick break and get up and stretch and refresh drinks, things like that. So we'll be back in a few minutes with more of Session 0 of Blood and Iron, Dead Man's Hand. So be back soon, everybody. Wonderful cast members. And so, after a little bit of discussion, we've kind of come to the conclusion that Regency might be something that we be maybe adjusting a little bit, but for the most part is the kind of coterie that we are going to be looking for. Because some kind of event has happened either just before the coterie gets together or just after or something like that. But something happens, and they're meant to act instead of this particular individual until such a time that they are relieved of their duty. And so that's kind of where we're starting from. So which we're gonna kind of get all of the we can take care of coterie dots if we want to right now, if y'all want to do that, so that we can get things rolling on that. So in that regard, the first three that we're gonna take that we're gonna make sure that it gets added onto the sheet is Chase 2 and Portal on 3 for the coterie, the coterie's domain. There's going to be a 2-dot Mala, which we will decide on a person in briefly when we get to the relationship with and start building more of the relationships, and status 4 for all of you as a coterie, so that you have the pool that you need to act in the stead of this person. And then after that, its advantages and flaws bought 1 for 1, up to 10, shared between Haven, Herd, Influence, Resources, or Retainers for the advantages. And then flaws, same number of flaws. So, are there any dots that you want to spend up to 10 with an equivalent in flaws? So 1 for 1 in Herd, Influence, Resources, or Retainers that you want to buy with those. What y'all thinking? You're muted, Derek.
Just to be clear, it's Chase 2, Portal on 3, Lane 0, correct?
Yes, it does not have a lane dot on here for that. So it would be default, yeah.
And
that could be because you just landed in this spot because it was pretty abrupt. So a low lane might be narratively possible, but it's completely up to you guys.
No, it makes sense. For the coterie, very first thing I am thinking about is a ghoul.
A ghoul? For
Yeah,
how many dots?
I'm thinking of. Oh, well, I'm gonna give the retainer 1 dot
Retainer 1? Okay.
because I can't give it more than one, and I don't have many access backgrounds. I
No,
can
no,
give
no.
out
This
without-
is not you buying it. This
Oh,
is this is 1-for-1 advantage for flaw.
okay. Um.
That's what step we're on.
I have nothing that's particularly screaming out to me. You?
Um,
I don't think Moxie has anything to add. What about Specs or Fat Guy?
Group home? Or private homes?
You don't want to group home with Shriek. You guys can take one. Shriek will not be there.
Because Shriek will spend a lot of his sleeping time either in his own haven or be interacting with UL, probably on the porch at the most.
sorry, Coffee, what were our options to spend these 10 points on again?
Haven, herd, influence, resources, or retainers. Your choice of the combination. So long as we're buying 1 dot for 1 dot of a flaw. So if you have a flaw that would narratively kind of go together with it, that would be even
Like
pretty
what
spicy.
kind of flaws are we talking about?
Any.
Any kind of flaw? Like, is there a list of flaws for a domain, or is
That
it
is the
flaws
same
that we have to
as
take as?
characters. It just applies to all of you. So if you were to take an enemy, for instance, it would be a 1 dot enemy, but it would also mean that it's an enemy to all of you, an adversary to all of you, a haven flaw for all of you, a uh, influence flaw for all of you, that sort of thing. That's how the flaws will work in this regard. Now you can spend 0. You don't have to take any. We could just jump right into what you guys want to buy with your own character dots, but this is what's opened up to you for being the stand-in for this particular person.
It would make a lot of sense if we had an adversary of some kind.
Okay, an adversary flaw is definitely takeable.
Because we've been dropped in this position, there's gonna be other
Someone's
kindred that are
ruffled.
looking at it and going, why were they picked? It should have been
Should have been
such and
X,
Someone's
Y, or
such.
Z.
feathers are going to get ruffled over this shit.
Yep, and you can take adversaries. You can buy up to 2 dots in adversaries. So what 2 dots do you want to spend on an advantage?
I am going to say, in terms of an advantage, I keep going back to herd
Herd? Okay.
because of the kind of characters that we have. I feel like a herd would be necessary.
Yeah, as big of a herd as we can get.
So that 2 up to, so you're doing a 1 dot herd for a 1 dot adversary?
I think so for now.
Okay, 1 dot herd for 1 dot adversary. I'm also making notes of this. Okay. Anyone else have any ideas they want to throw in?
I think that adversary is probably going to be a coterie of some sort.
Yeah. Very likely. Like the people who should have had this position. Or something to that effect.
Or they think they should have this position.
Possibly even the person in question's childer. Something to that effect. Because a one dot adversary covers up to either a coterie of neonates or one ancilla. So that's what it'll equivalent to. And then one dot herd to start off the herd.
I think that would be good. Yeah.
As far as the 1-to-1 buys that you want to do.
I think that's about as far as like. I don't think I want to go too deep
into the 1-for-1.
That,
yeah. Okay. Then instead now that we've finished up the 1-for-1 that we want to do, unless Spectre has one they want to add or no.
No.
No? Okay. Then now it is your taking dots from your character and adding them in where you want in that regard. So you're buying something on the coterie sheet for 1 dot off of something on your sheet. So who wants to go first? Or does anyone want to do any of that?
I don't have anything I'm gonna feel like I want to trade in. So
okay,
bro. Literally, all of my backgrounds is either flaws or lore sheets. So no.
So no. Okay. Alexandra Kane, do you want to dump any of your dots into the coterie?
I could scale back on one thing to get a dot if we could get another dot and chase to make it easy to feed. Easier to
make
feed.
It a 4-dot chase? Is it 4 dots or 3?
3. It would be 3 dots because right now 2 dot.
Okay.
Isn't that like 6 dice or something that we need?
2 dots is DC 5. 0 dots is 7. 1 dot is 6. 2 dots is 5. 3 dots is 4. Or 4
I could take away I have 3 dots resources. I could go down to 2.
And add to chase. Make it a 3 chase.
Yeah, I think that's something that we need. So I'll take that. I'll take the hit for the coterie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then go ahead and mark that off on your sheet. So we're looking at, so far, a chase 3, portal on 3, 1 dot herd, 1 dot adversary coterie right now. Anyone else want to make any changes?
So you said 3 dot herd.
No, 1 dot herd.
1 dot adversary.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, because you only spent one 1-for-1. So.
Okay.
All right. That is what the coterie assets are. So you have 0 lane, which means you don't know a whole lot about this domain. You only just got here.
Yep.
Which makes sense.
You only just got here. You have never been to this section of the city before. It is, according to others, very well stocked, very well protected. So let's kind of look at the map and kind of get an idea where you guys want to be located. So where do we think that this particular domain is located?
Unfortunately, this is where my ignorance of the.
Well, okay. Let's talk about the herd a little bit. What kind of people do you think that is? Like, are you going after specific kind of people?
There's a primogen that handles the greater part of Fort Worth, and there's a primogen that handles the greater part of Dallas, and all of them are under the Prince. I suggest we are under Fort Worth area.
In the Fort Worth area, okay.
Fort Worth, okay.
We're well stocked and we're well protected, therefore we're in a fort.
I mean, it makes sense, given the name of the city. It is the smaller of the 2 cities, of course, but It does get the central hub of everything is going to be in kind of the downtown Dallas area. So you're kind of far away actually from all of the goings on in the main central of the city. You're more focused on the sort of outskirts, the sort of lower populous sort of sort of sections. It's not too hard to get between because there's only like several tens of miles between them. But you know, it's still pretty easy to get everywhere. It just is easier, much easier to get to somewhere in Fort Worth than it would be to get to somewhere in Dallas for you all, if that's where you guys want to land. So, with it being a Chase 3, I would think that that is probably something a little closer to like a highly populated sort of area, or someplace kind of in the downtown area where there's lots and lots of people to feast your fangs upon.
Yeah. With the Chase 3, I'd be thinking we would be somewhere in a city.
And yeah, middle of the city kind of a place. So kind of close to downtown Fort Worth, methinks, geographically.
Hmm.
I'd have to defer to your experience on that regard.
I'm making this shit up. So
Because my first thought was, is Arlington makes it very interesting because it basically puts us in the middle of all of it.
yeah, that's true. If you want to be in the true middle.
Oh wait, coffee. I double checked something. I can't give a dot of resources
Oh, why not?
because that comes from a lore sheet thing that I got.
Oh, okay.
So it is not something that I spent experience or one of my dots.
When your dot's getting okay, you would have to take one dot off of your lore sheet in order to be able to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with how retainers work, I was going to build it up eventually to a 3-dot retainer to, be like full on like,
Full
you
ghoul.
know. Yeah, so I could take it down to a 1 where he's just kind of bonded to me and just introduction and build that organically over the story.
Right. A one dot
To do the
retainer
same
is
thing.
someone that you probably provide a salary to some respect. You pay them to do the jobs that they do.
Yeah.
2 dot is like you really only just Googled them. 3 dot is they have connections upon connections upon connections. And so the 3 dot is that person is very likely very skilled at what they do and they don't do anything else.
Yeah, it's a I'll tell you more about the character in when we have time, but I have it picked out and like
Okay, so right now it's a 2, you want to drop it to a 1?
I can do that. Yeah. And we can build it up through story and that'll be good.
Okay. Yeah, we can work with that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure about that because I didn't want
We
to
can make
do
that
something
correction. Yeah,
yeah.
that's fair. Okay. Correction is noted. So yeah, so I've so downtown Fort Worth or Arlington are kind of the ideas that have been proposed for geographical location.
The more I look at the map, the more I'm leaning into Arlington.
Okay.
Yeah, because I would expect Central Dallas to be where the prince resides.
Yeah.
I
Everything
imagine,
happens in Central Dallas. Yeah.
yeah, I imagine those who may be of questionable loyalty are kind of pushed into Fort Worth, where it's like, I can't prove they're an anarch, but there are La Sombra.
Yeah, the low clans definitely would have a higher population in Fort Worth then, and that's where you would have things like Thin Bloods and Caitiff and everything else that's been adopted by
What
Prince Horsey.
It kind of feels like
Only,
Fort Worth is a starting zone.
only in Texas could they get away with having a place named that.
What?
A place named White Settlement. It is right above where it says Fort Worth.
Yep.
You're not wrong.
Only in Texas, where they give zero fucks.
We give 0 fucks around here, y'all. I should know. I'm a Texan.
And notice it's as far away from Murphy as possible.
But yeah. What you think, Monks, Spectre? Does sound
Where are
like
we talking about being from?
being smack in the middle. Arlington.
In
Arlington?
Sure.
Smack in the middle.
Arlington makes sense.
All right. I will.
Arlington gives you the most flexibility to do what you will.
Yeah. So we're just going to circle that. Oh, I just realized that my color is gray. It did not.
So you can't see it.
Can't see it. There
Now,
it
see,
goes.
to me, Arlington is a cemetery, but
Hey, maybe a cemetery, the living place of the dead. But yeah, that kind of puts us in our geographical location and gets our coterie dots out of the way. So, and now that we have our coterie type, we know where we're located. We know just about what the sort of framework of the city is going to be. Let's do relationship stuff because that's the fun part. Because
this is something that I've never actually gotten a chance to do.
No, this is because this is your first session 0 with me when it comes to any of the games that you're in with me.
Yeah.
So
somehow I'm always replacing someone and just like, I'll do it.
Well, I know one of you people have a touchstone that's also named Bennett. There's Bonnie and then there's Angela, and I think that's from
mine and
Alex.
Alex, that's right. Alex has Angela. So I'm gonna. That's the first tie together that I'm gonna do because I want them to be related somehow. Just because I think it would be hella interesting.
That's cool with me.
That cool with you, Mox?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So they're related somehow. Whether it's, marriage or actually siblings or what have you.
You must be the Belmont. Which one?
Okay, let me actually add the coterie assets to this then, because we have the coterie adversary. As well. In the midst of all of this, I'm probably going to redraw all of this at some point, but that is not going to be today. Because we had 3 touchstones for Kane, so I need to put the 3rd one in here. And then Shriek had 2. And then
Alex had 2.
Alex had 2. Okay,
So Angela and the other one.
And the other one, I don't have that
Mary.
marked down here just yet. So there's that other one. I'll fill that in here in a sec. And then Anna had, was it 2? Okay, I have those 2 already out here. So let's talk about relationships between each of the player characters really quick. So, Well, let's start with the person who hasn't actually done this before. Fat guy.
What's up?
What does Kane, upon say, so first of all, do you want this coterie to have just been created, or do you want to have known each other for a little while before? What do y'all think as a group?
I think the idea of us just being thrown together into this random location in the city and being told, take care of this,
The
is
stand-in
friggin'
for X person,
I think it's hilarious that we're all strangers.
Yeah, it like
or at least
maybe
have never met.
we are just notable up and comers from different things, and they're like, well, they
Well,
have
somebody.
potential and they're expendable. Let's throw them at it.
The hilarious part of it is the person who's going to be really good at this is the person who ended up deciding to have taken 3 dots, 4 dots politics.
Yep.
I wonder who that could be.
I wonder. But yeah, let's do some chit chatting about that.
Okay.
What does Kane, upon first, this is your first meeting of Anna. You and Anna have
Okay.
only just met. What is your impression of them?
Honestly, like I still have to I have to wrap my head around who everybody is.
Anna,
So
when you look at her, she's kind of scrawny and wears mostly like goth outfits, right, Spectre?
Yeah, very much looks like tends to wear like these really frilly, ridiculous, flowy Victorian goth or even like gothic Lolita looks. Like it's clear she's going for an aesthetic. She's very waifish, mm, almost like
A
just
little,
straight up like bony.
a little gaunt, yeah.
But she is beautiful, and you notice as far as her behavior, she's more like meek and demure. She almost seems like, in a lot of ways, disinterested or maybe even resigned to her situation.
kind of his first thing was like, okay, she's pretty hot, but there's got to be trouble there, and that scares
So maybe a little sus,
me.
or
It's one
maybe
of
a good
those things
impression.
of like, uh, kind of interest.
So he's intrigued. Okay, so
Yeah,
I would say
intrigued,
that's a good
kind of.
impression. Yeah, that's a good impression. In response to that, what is Anna's opinion of Kane?
How does Kane act initially?
He's very like no bullshit, kind of like doesn't talk unless he really needs to, and like polite to an extent, but firm.
He also looks kind of dad bod.
Yeah, he's like he's jacked out, but you know he's definitely enjoyed a few beers, like because he's not in his prime. Like he is out of his main career and into the management and like
Still very strong, but has a
yeah
bit of a gut.
he's not old as an old person, but he's old for a fighter.
I'm gonna go with yellow
Okay.
because Kane seems polite. He seems kind. He seems like the kind of like just a generally mannered kind of guy, right? But there is this roughness to him that Anna is thinking, he reminds me of dad.
Ah, Reminds you of Dad. Is Dad in the picture, Anna?
Anna killed Dad.
Oh. I'm sure we'll
Ooh.
explore that later.
Mm-hmm.
All
Definitely
right.
no deep-seated trauma there.
Nope.
We'll be fine. We're good.
Kane, you have just met the Australian Tremere Alexandra. What does Alexandra look like, Mox?
She is very gothic in terms of her dress. She kind of likes to wear her net style stuff.
Mm.
Like the heavy boots and things like that.
Oh
Um,
shit. Kane has a
she's
type, y'all.
she's got these beautiful little piercings in her cheeks.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the nose piercing in the middle. She's got this immaculately done makeup. She has these black and green dreads that she keeps as well.
Oh, she's a little
Um,
cyberpunk.
very, very alternative, and she's covered in tattoos of very Celtic and very Norse style stuff.
Uh-huh.
And she's very bright. She's very enthusiastic. She's a little bit snarky, and some of the things that she says kind of miss the mark just slightly.
In a
Okay.
I'm from a foreign country kind of way, or in another way that we'll explore later?
As in you're not entirely sure if she's insulting you or not.
Again, kind of intriguement and amusement, probably.
Intrigue and amusement, okay.
The one thing I will say, like, it doesn't show in the token, but like, if he ever takes his shirt off, his arms are not tattooed because he kind of like learned very much that perception is very heavily through, but like his chest and back and like legs and like he's got a full suit. So
Okay.
She'll probably ask you about where the artwork came from, who did it,
yeah.
and all that sort of stuff.
There
Shit,
probably will
now I
be
got.
lots
All
of
right, I'm
conversations
looking
about
up.
tattoos.
I'm looking up tattooers in Texas that are famous now because he would go to good places.
Go to famous places, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, okay. Do you mostly good impression? You know,
Yeah, kind of. The the kind of like offsetting comments and stuff. He would probably just be more amused than anything else. So I'd still say like he just wants to know more
and this time
and
Mox
see.
is actually playing an Australian character, so her accent is authentic to the character.
Uh, I was about to say Mox is
Authentic to the
pulling.
region too.
I was about to say Mox is pulling off the accent so well. How did you practice it?
Right? Like it's not as if I was born here or anything.
Like
Like
she's from Australia. Okay. In response, what is Alexandra's opinion of Kane?
she's intrigued. The art definitely catches her attention. Um, she's not trusting of him by any means because fellow kindred and kindred are questionable by nature.
Well, of course, but this is first impressions, sort of thing.
Definitely intrigued.
Okay. Intrigued. I'd say that's a good impression. Okay. So it's mutual intrigue. Kane, you have just met Shriek, who probably is keeping his distance for a bit. What does Shriek look like, Derek?
Shriek, the first thing you would end up noticing is that he ends up wearing, well, actually, the first thing that might be striking is the hair. Um, Red would hardly suffice. It's overt. It's a very loud color, along with a very tight knit tank top with a revealing rift that is of a very bright yellow, though it is a little dinged and dismayed with a fishnet undershirt. Yeah, armatures or uh, comes across as a little bit mischievous, perhaps somebody who is an overt joker of grim humor. Not overtly polite nor of any particular showing of etiquette. You probably end up dealing with an awkward pass and an individual who enjoys making things just a little bit awkward from time to time. You can see he kind of revels in it.
Hmm.
Very, very sharp, though. Very, very sharp. In fact, if you weren't paying attention, or maybe you didn't ask, or maybe you simply presumed Malkavian, it would make sense given his disposition. But no, what you were dealing with is a Nosferatu who seems to look all too human. Never mind the flies.
Yes, the occasional creepy crawlies going every which way under clothing, through ear holes, things like that. He's just swarming in them. And it may be a different one every day. Who knows?
He would kind of like the demeanor and the off-putting comments and stuff. He probably would find amusing, but the way that he holds himself he would probably be kind of cautious around and want to learn this person before
Oh,
he makes a
Daddy.
judgment. Don't call me daddy unless you mean it.
All right, so maybe cautious, which might be because of the vermin, but we'll leave that for another time. We shall see how that develops. Shriek, what is your opinion of Cain?
The dad bod thing really doesn't do it for me. Really, it's more of a consideration of where he comes from. They end up telling me in Chicago there was kind of a thing going on. Made me worry just a little bit. I was kind of curious, though. Warzi ends up bringing in all types, I see. Tall, dark, and thick.
So I take it a good impression
Mm,
or more cautious?
More cautious at this point. It's a mixed bag. I'd like
Mixed
to end up
bag.
it being good, but, you know,
Because your
red
clan and his
flag.
clan are both known for punching walls.
Yeah, except we end up doing it with a grace of it, a grace and air that ends up allowing us to end up making homes, whereas he just caves in skulls. I mean, anybody can do that with a wrench. I mean, hell, Anna can end up doing that. All we need to end up giving her is a 5 pound object. It don't impress me much.
All right, Reba.
Well, since Shriek did bring up Anna, what is your opinion of Shriek at this moment? You've only just met
I,
them.
well, speaking with them a little bit, they know how to dig at me, is probably the best way I can put it. It's not necessarily anything that I can't ignore, just statements. It can seem wrong. Maybe that's just generally how Shriek is. There's a little bit of wrong in everything that they seem. It's a fairly normal face. And I've heard about Nosferatu, I've seen Nosferatu. But Shriek doesn't look like one. Just a little bit wrong. In some way.
So a cautious perspective?
Cautious. Yeah. I probably would never be able to really take anything at face value. All jokes intended.
And Shriek's opinion of the wayfish Anna.
I look at that near face, and I end up saying there are absolutely no meat on those bones. I end up making myself wondering though, because well, Malkavians gotta end up here taking everything with a pinch of salt. Accentuates the flavor, all kinds of fun, but also ends up turning into a little bit of a problem. Unreliability. Sad truth of it is that they can't help it. I think at once they said they are on the inside what most Nosferatu are on the outside. We just kind of wear it better, and I wear it so damn good. Well, there is one thing. I get her. Really, I do. You see, it's a little bit weird trying to end up finding your place in all of this. Anna's not one of those individuals who just fits in the Camarilla. Not really. You see, we end up having in the Camarilla a degree of grace and civility and all the wonderful charms, and she's an awkward little sociopath. I, that's because she's Malkavian. I don't know her too personally, but fact of the matter is that means things can go south real quick. But I do get not quite being in the right place. I think if I make things comfortable for her, I might be able to stay on the right end of it. But Nosferatu and Malkavians, oil and water. It's gonna be fun trying to mix.
So a cautious understanding, sort of.
I'd say leaning to green.
Leaning to green? Okay. Good impressions. Nothing too overtly out of the ordinary about Anna. She's a typical Malkavian, quote unquote. So far.
We'll find out.
Anna, you have just met Alexandra. In her cyberpunky glory.
No, there's no two ways about it. I absolutely love everything about her look. She's really pretty. But she kind of scares me. In a lot of ways, I don't know. I think the best way I can put it is I want to be friends. If only, you know. Just so I can. I generally just want to be on good terms with everyone, but. Yeah.
Okay. It's a good impression based on the fact you like her look.
I mean, I don't really know much about her. I'm purely going off of looks, appearances, behaviors.
And she's foreign.
Well, I mean, technically I am too. As far as Dallas is concerned. Or Texas.
Okay. In response, Alex, you've just met Anna.
She's cute, but I feel sorry for her. She's so quiet. Could be a lot more there. so much potential. Wonder if I could bring it out now.
Sounds like a good impression to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the only one we haven't done is Alexandra, you've just met Shriek.
Shriek's a lot. Shriek is a lot. And the bugs are kind of gross. I'm not gonna lie. Just the in and the out of the nose and the ears and creepy crawlies.
That's mostly the flies and the
They've got
maggots. Yeah.
they've got good style, I guess. They're a little crazy. They're a lot. They're a lot.
There's a lot to unpack there. That sounds like a cautious. Not sure what to think. Okay. And Shriek? You're muted.
The lion, the witch, and the audacity of this bitch. I mean,
I think Black Wolf, you're gonna need to make a counter for that.
so let's walk it back just for a second. We have a woman who's trying to end up passing herself off as some kind of half-assed occultist when reality is well, she's being railroaded on Maine, and she has the look for it. Don't get it twisted, it could have been a fashion model, but I'm pretty sure the casting couch was a little nasty to her. But fact of the matter is so what really ends up boiling my blood, that's something she can probably do, by the way, is the fact that we end up having to deal with Tremere. See, if anything I end up learning is don't trust a Tremere, and dear God, they're trying to make him cute these days. But she's still a goddamn warlock. Warlocks like to keep their secrets. They like to end up trying to keep everybody on the out, not let them know what they're doing. And what you tell one, you tell everybody. And goddamn it, I'm just not in the mood for this shit. I'm gonna have to end up going in between her teeth with a goddamn crowbar. Thankfully, I come equipped.
I fucking love Shriek so much. Oh god.
Yes, some of us were dying laughing. Obviously.
This is Dana all over again. Oh my god.
No, this is Nega Dana.
Nega
This is
data.
the opposite.
Nega data. I may have to make an emote for that. Yes. I have.
Clip on that one.
Yes, that clip is going to get saved in the favorite moments on Discord. Just so y'all are aware, we have a Discord for you to post that shit on. So, would you say that that's a good impression there, Shriek?
Fuck. I'm going to have to fight for line of the night now.
Yep, you definitely are.
Nope, it's just going back to Derek Coins. Who am I kidding?
Truthfully, though, I was dying laughing. I didn't understand it all. So, was that a fairly good impression?
No. Horrible impression.
Horrible impression.
No way. You know, if we could... I'd throw her under the bus, but I wouldn't want to do the disservice to the bus.
Oof. You're I hope you understand, Mox. You're going to be the target of the Negadana.
Oh, I love
It's
it.
not me. Yes.
I welcome this. Bring it on. I feel like this is Dana and Rodney all over again.
We're gonna need it. We're gonna need a spit take counter for this goddamn show.
Oh God.
The audacity of this bitch.
Nosforiador. I've
Oh,
got it right.
love it. Love to see it. Oh my goodness, this is gonna be fun.
I'm gonna be taking so much willpower damage. I can just feel it.
Not even on the character sheet, just personally.
Well done. Well done. Well, I enjoyed every bit of that. We're gonna have more of that in session 1, I'm sure. But yeah, let's kind of flesh out this web a little bit here. So the things that well, I've kind of made notes of some of the things I've already connected a little bit here. Is that with your personal ties and everything like that. Some of the things I didn't have their name for, but other things I did. So we're going to talk about the relationship that each of you has with your sire or Mola, and so that we can get an idea on this web, where the connections might be, where your connections might be, who you think they might not, that your sires might not like, who they do like, and kind of work from there, kind of building out this web a little bit more. So the
So
no, sorry, you had a question.
no, I'm just saying, like, have you ever seen the meme of the one dude from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? It's going to look like that room with strings going everywhere,
Oh yes,
and
oh
it's
yes.
going to be a mad fever dream.
This that is exactly what this kind of thing is. This is 100% how thought webs look. Derek does thought webs in a very similar way. I do a lot of names. I don't do a whole lot of places or concepts on my thought webs, but I do people, and that is what this thought web is all about. So we're gonna start with Kane again. Uh, so you have a sire named Isaac Blackwood.
Yes.
What kind of relationship do you have with Isaac?
Oh, complicated one.
Complicated, so yellow.
Um, Good in the sense that we have a good rapport, but he's not sure that I'm worthy of some of the teachings yet. And I don't think it'll stay. It might be green now, but I don't know if it'll stay green forever.
So you have a good impression of him. That's okay. And just to kind of get an idea, how old are each of your characters? We're doing fledgling as far as the resources and experience that you have, but how old is Anna when it comes to her embrace?
I'm going with baby.
Baby, she'll
Baby. Probably at most embraced maybe 3 years.
3 years. Okay, 1 to 3 years. That sounds about right. Yeah, that'd be some knowledge, but not a lot. What about Alexandra?
I was kind of leaning in the direction of maybe 5 to 10 years.
Okay, so a little
So
older.
she's been around for a little while.
Okay, okay. What about Shriek? How long's he been living this on life?
Probably about 15 years.
Okay.
Older, probably one of the more wizened kindred in understanding of the court.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of your go-to guy, your own personal little harpy, which also ends up meaning that I'm taking notes
Yes. Yes,
and
indeed.
measurements.
And Kane?
I think he's probably maybe around 5 years. He's long enough to be a little bit off the leash, but he also hasn't been like a big fixture in court, so he doesn't have the etiquette and stuff yet. But he knows how to handle himself on the street and not get himself in trouble.
Okay, okay,
as much as as possible, with something telling you to murder everything and eat everything in sight.
okay. So uh, roughly about 10 to 15 for each of the other kindred, except for Anna. She is the baby. She is the one to be taught, if there is one to be taught. That makes it an interesting little question as to why put a baby with nearly released fledglings. Indeed. If you aren't released already. I mean, you're very much, at least the framing action of this might be your releasing.
Again, it's got some weird shit to do with the sire. I'll leave that up to you, my man.
Okay.
She's got connections and she knows something. High aspects user. I don't know what she knows or what she sees. All Anna knows is that she is, air quotes, an experiment.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. So there's Kane has a good relation. It feels very strongly in a good direction towards Isaac. Okay. From what you think, what do you think Isaac thinks of you?
Um,
You said something about him not feeling like you're up to it yet.
he doesn't know if I'm worthy enough of the teachings for like all the rituals and stuff that comes with Oblivion.
That's
I don't.
Oblivion rituals. I thought that was only Hakata.
Is Hakata only rituals?
There's the
I don't.
necromancy part.
Oh, maybe I. That's another thing that when I built them out, I
Typically,
didn't know they were. I didn't
It's
know that they
it's
were.
understandable. So the core difference is La Sombra tend to focus on shadow manipulation and stuff with the void.
Okay,
They're
I.
specialists in that regard. While they do share Oblivion, it's
there's like
kind of
two
like
tracks of Oblivion. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. The
all
best
right.
way I can
I'll
think of
have
it
to
is
rebuild them a bit then.
think of it like the difference between Gangrel and Zamisi. They both come in from Protean, but Zamisi
Gotcha.
are not known for shapeshifting into dogs and earth meld and all that. They're known for vicissitude,
Okay,
right?
I
Yeah.
that's something I didn't know.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
Well,
two
there you go.
different branches of
yeah.
Oblivion. Yeah, like there are two different
It's
branches
All right.
not.
of
It's
Protean.
not to say they
So
can't find a La Sombra who ends up knowing undead magics. That's you can certainly find that. The thing is that is considered an extreme rarity in that regard. It's outside of what you would typically find.
That Lasombra probably learned it from a Hakata.
yeah, that might be uh, a thing that happens because by trade he owns mortuaries, so he might be dealing in death and might have been dealing with the Akata at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't like know if teaching him Oblivion really is, or like developing that side of him is worth it. Like he mostly kind of made Kane for protection because he's not as physical.
Okay. Well, there's a possible link between Isaac and the Hakata. I don't think I have them
Yeah,
anywhere else on this board right now. But
but he like
Go up.
he's
You
he
do actually have Hekata listed there.
do I? I'm
Yep.
just dumb.
With Nicholas. I think that's what that says.
Oh yeah, because that's a tie to the Hakata. Yep. Meow. Whoop.
it's a treasure map.
Yep.
But he, as much as he's probably likes me, he's probably more cautious because I don't think he keeps anybody close. He keeps most people at arm's length.
Mm. Which is fair enough. So you think he keeps you at arm's length? Probably just out of habit.
Yeah.
Okay.
he wouldn't shirk his duties, but he wouldn't also confide in me all of his greatest secrets.
Okay, and then we also had an adversary for you as well.
Ah,
Oh no,
Father Thomas McCree.
Thomas McCree. Let's talk about Thomas McCree. Who is this man?
Local clergyman. Um, I didn't know if you wanted to tie him, what clan we wanted to tie him into. I didn't go that
That's
far.
completely up to you.
Um, what you guys are the lore nuts? What clans are involved in um
As a typical adversary for La Sombra?
that, and who's usually involved in they would hide in the clergy and find comfort there and usefulness.
In that case, any clan can really benefit from being a member of clergy. One thing that really kind of stands out to me actually is Ventru, because
That's
Ventru,
what I was thinking, because it might, like, I was thinking I was messing with his food, and maybe it's a rarefied thing of part of his food and what I've been messing with, and he
my train of thought is this particular venture could be incredibly classically trained, where they're very much their sire and their sire and go beyond and beyond are have because religion had such power as it did way back in the day as far as political power. he still finds he still finds value in that, being able to uh, be able to to influence the masses through religion, even though the political power in the human world has gone a lot more secular. The He still finds, as a part of that, some kind of calling in that way, and that could be based on his feeding restriction. It could be based on a different number of things. It could be based on it. Traditionally, this is what his sire and his sire's sire and his sire's done for millennia. So it
yeah.
could be that he's sticking to tradition as per his family. So um, Ventru stands out to me in that way. Uh,
That sounds good. I mean, like, they are kind of like the mirror images of each other, of like,
Ventru and Losombra are definitely two sides of the same coin.
yeah.
So we can make him a Ventru. Let's we'll stick with that as a as an idea. Um, but why doesn't he like you in particular?
Because I'm messing with people under his control.
In
So,
what fashion?
um, pulling people from the that he deals with, like, through outreach programs and stuff, pulling them in for training and fights and stuff. Not something as lowly as, like, back in the day when people would do bum fights and stuff. Not something like that, but like legitimately looking for talent and getting people off the streets and giving them a chance to, like, that he sees potential in.
Okay,
Especially like some of the younger kids that are going down a path that he knows, and trying to develop some integrity and some, like,
Kind of,
good traits.
he likes his
kind of
version of
like
outreach, not your
therapy.
version of outreach.
Yeah, and like, it might be something simple as I'm messing with his herd, or it might just be that he doesn't like me coming into his domain of something that he sees as his.
Hmm.
So, like, I don't know, like, I didn't come up with exactly why, but I know that's that's the interaction.
Okay,
So,
but he just does not. He hates your guts. He
probably.
he hates your guts.
Yeah.
He doesn't like what you. He doesn't like you. You just rub him the wrong way.
He's very proper, and I am very not.
Okay. Then you have your retainer. Who
Ah,
are they?
my retainer. I believe his name is Brody, but we call him Chatterbox
Nah.
because he doesn't say a fucking thing unless he really needs to. He learned not to talk when he doesn't need.
How did you meet Chatterbox?
He was a young kid that kind of hung around the gym. You could tell he wanted to train but couldn't afford the dues. So I started having him do chores and clean up, and just to keep him out of trouble and give him gym time. Uh, I've kind of taken him under my wing and teaching him the ropes, and I see potential.
Oops.
It's a Brody Chatterbox Edwards.
All right. All right. Cool beans. All right. Okay. And then let's see, who else is important that we really should know more about? Well, of course, your touchstones. We've covered the convictions that they cover, and you have a fairly decent relationship with them, I imagine. And
Yes.
so,
The only one that might be yellow is Annie Fletcher, because a problem with her is she is kind of like become dependent, and he wants her to stand on her own 2 feet.
but the other two, you have a decent and
Yeah,
delightful
good
relationship with too.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh, what's your how? What do you think the Chatterbox feels about you?
Um, Somewhere between cautious and good, because he's kind of been let down a lot in his life, but he wants it to be a good thing. He's just kind of guarded.
And right now, you're paying him to do different things.
Yeah, mostly probably gym time, making sure he has groceries, making sure he has, if he needs to, crash in a cot in the back if he's between places.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Just generally trying to take care of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like a good boss would.
Yeah.
All right. Then we have. Who wants to go next? So I think that finishes us up with Kane.
Can I go next? I will
Sure.
probably have to be getting off soon.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, we can do you next.
Okay.
Tell us about
what
Dr. Rhiannon Vale.
the mother I never had. When it comes down to it, truth is that I can't really hide anything from her, but there's a lot of comfort in that. A lot. I don't have to hold any secrets from her. And she still guides me in a lot of ways that I wish I had growing up.
Thanks to the Hero Zone for the raid. Thank you so much. We're just talking about Anna and her sire. And so, in that regard, you mentioned that Rhiannon believes you to be an experiment, but do you think that she has a good opinion of you otherwise?
She seems like it. It's hard to tell with her demeanor. Most of the time, she's usually got some sort of vague interest in what's going on. She has these sort of dance-like movements whenever she's talking to me, and, well, again, she comforts me. She tries to tell me how to do things properly. I don't really understand a lot about this whole hierarchy of kindred. But what I do know, she's been very, very careful and meticulous about informing me, and, well, she understands that I have a hard time with a lot of it. So, I don't know. It definitely seems like she's keeping me at arm's distance on most things. She doesn't tell me things very often, aside from general wisdom, but she is there when I need her.
Well, that's good. At least she's taking up her duty as a sire very seriously. One connection that I immediately saw was that you also have a touchstone therapist, and so both of them kind of working, maybe not together, but in similar fields. May know about each other and dislike each other, Josephine and Rhiannon, and so there might be some animosity between the two. Whether either one of them says it out loud, you know. That
Different methods. I know Dr. Vale tends to be more analytical when it comes to some things. She prefers to ask questions. To her, it's more about the information of it. Dr. Peace, she tries to keep me grounded. It is a little bit different. I don't know how else to put it. But I know I can keep secrets from Dr. Peace. I can't keep secrets from Dr. Vale. And I think they know that. Both of them.
Yep, that's definitely important. Keeping secrets from your therapist is not a good way to heal. But that also brings us to the fact that you also have an adversary, I believe. You have an adversary on your sheet, I believe. Let me double check that, whether it's adversary or enemy.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Tell us about Evangeline.
Evangeline's kind of weird. When I was first introduced to the court, I couldn't help but notice that she was the one who first approached me, who first spoke to me, who first antagonized me a bit. More than anything, it seems like she's trying to get information out of me, trying to get some sort of rise, trying to get me to misstep and reveal more about either myself or Dr. Vale than what I think I would know. And I can't help but think that maybe what she's really after is Dr. Vale's information rather than my own. It's obvious I'm not myself anything interesting. It's very clear that the interesting person is, or the interesting situation is really everyone else around me. They're the ones with the information, they're the ones with the experience. I'm just kind of a foothold. a little mound to get over in order to get to the big picture.
Very interesting. Do you have any opinions about Evangeline yourself?
I'm more cautious of her than anything. She's very proper, and I think she is very well received by the court. I think that's kind of obvious. She has a lot more experience than I do in general. Cautious. Just cautious. I tried to avoid her.
All right. Fair enough. And then the other of your touchstones, which we covered the convictions for, was Roman. And he epitomizes that love takes sacrifice. What's your relationship to him?
When I was first embraced, it actually took a second for everything to hold into grip. I felt like I was really just intoxicated, and I somehow made my way home from Dr. Vale's office to our apartment. He was my first meal. I thought I killed him, but Dr. Vale was there almost immediately. And I begged her to save his life, however that meant. And she did it. Problem is that he remembers all of it. And I still love him. But I don't know if he loves me, or if he just loves the idea of what's in me. And I can't help but feel like he resents me for it. All of it. He's right to, of course. After all, I can't be sure he's, himself anymore. But I can't bear the idea of letting him go either.
Is there anyone else important to Anna that we should add to the web?
Not that I know of. If anyone else decides to make connections here, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Well, there's already a connection that I saw, because Evangeline is a Tremere, so it is part of the growing population of Tremere that we have on the board. And then, which kind of ties this kind of neatly into Alexandra next. And your Mala's name is Balthasar. Tell us about your relationship to Balthasar.
Oh, I love Balthazar. I think he's absolutely fascinating. I mean, who wouldn't like a guy with a super hardline stance to everything? That being said, I don't think he's all that fond of me. He's kind of doing it because he has to, you know?
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Still, he's fun. I like to poke and prod and see how angry I can make him on occasion, but, you know, only.
So you think Balthasar doesn't think too highly of you? He's very cautious of you. Maybe because you're from outside of the U.S. Maybe it's because you're an oddball. But
I'm thinking it might have.
he's an oddball amongst the Tremere himself, because not many others, well, at least a couple of the other Tremere that you would have probably met by now, would all sorts of seem to have a religious bent to them in some direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Father
Bunch of
Edwards
nutters.
and Sister Marybeth.
Bunch of nutters. But we're all a little bit mad here. Well, not as mad as a Malkavian, but you know.
All right. Well, that's your relationship to Balthasar. You also have an enemy. Tell us about that person.
Oh, you're talking about Dr. Olson.
Dr. Olson. Who is Dr. Olson?
He's this guy that just kind of hangs around at the blood bank. I see him more often than I would really like to. And like, he's a human, I think. And he just kind of sits there and he watches me. And I could have sworn I've caught him following me home a couple of times.
A little too interested.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. I'm not into it. I mean, I could. No, I couldn't do that. That's not. Even still, just he gives me the heebies. Even as a kindred, having a random guy follow you home is just not on.
We do have several doctors, so he might actually have some tie to one of the other doctors amongst these kindred. Because there's Dr. Vale, there's Dr. Keller, there's Josephine. They're all doctors to some degree. Do we want to make a tie there somewhere?
That could be interesting. I imagine him to be maybe a general practice doctor or like,
Like a GP? Okay.
yeah, somebody that works in like the general area and has probably just noticed something's a bit funny with blood banks in the area.
So he's tied to blood banks. Maybe he's a facilitator for them. Like like out of his like his GP is connected to a blood bank somewhere.
Possibly. Or like a lot of his patients have been showing up with things like anemia because they've just had too much taken.
Yep, that would definitely do it. Oh, that would actually kind of tie into this whole trafficking thing over here. Because blood dolls and everything. So you're kind of indirectly connected to the La Sombra. And then your haven is haunted. What is it haunted with?
Oh, probably ghosts. Pretty sure it's ghosts.
Have you had
It's
a
an
chance
old
to
building.
investigate?
They like tend to make things go bump and find things moving around all the time. It's a bit weird.
Do you got some kind of poltergeist, do you think?
Yeah.
Have you
Whole
investigated it
reason I got
much?
the place anyway. Probably not. Probably the entire reason why she got the place was because it was haunted. And it's just kind of a little bit of an attractive point for the fact that, you know, it's also a magic shop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's connected, the store and the haven.
Mm-hmm.
What's your relationship like with Angela?
Angela. Angela's an absolute treat. I love it a bit. She's so sweet. She is sweet, she's funny, she's graceful, and she's really clever too. If I wasn't so young, I might keep my eye on her, actually. She'd be a great addition.
Hmm. And then your other touchstone was your Wiccan friend.
Oh, that was the Wiccan
Oh,
friend.
that is the Wiccan friend. Okay.
Yeah. The other touchstone is Mary. And Mary's a goddamn con artist.
What do you think about her?
I hate her, but I can't help but respect her. I mean, you've got to have everyone deaf and dumb to the fact that you're absolutely
You're breaking up
like
there a bit.
this.
There you go.
Like, there's clearly some skill there. Everybody deaf and dumb to all of your bullshit and be proven wrong so many times and still have.
Mm,
So, like, I just kind of got to respect.
fair enough. All right. Well, since we did, I think that's all. That's everything, unless there's some other important person that I missed. Miss Alexandra.
Do you want anything in there concerning Malaeus or Allison?
Since they're in Australia, they're not going to be important to the story,
Oh, good.
so we don't have to include them on there. Balthasar is more important in this story than they will be.
Yeah.
So, then that's unless there's other connections that that you think that you might want to make with Kane or Shriek or anybody.
I don't really know. I can't really see anything at this point.
Okay, I'll come back to it if we do.
Mhm.
Shriek, you have a couple of touchstones. You've got your investigative journalist, Mary Holt. Tell me a little bit about her for the moment.
Mary used to be the one at the front of the camera. Was looker, ended up here getting enough of his attention to end up going full stateside. Small here, little here, notations. Ended up having a career that, well, let's just say things didn't end up turning out quite the way they did, or they should have. Ended up turning into a case where we ended up spending a lot of time. I was a cameraman at all times and had a decent eye for these here kind of things. Tried to frame up the shot, always complained about the lighting. She would chew me out when I ended up having to end up telling her if we had to end up waiting for magic hour if we wanted the best shot. I always wanted to keep her in the best light. I kept an eye on everything. Kind of my job. And while she may have gotten the credit, I didn't mind much. Then things ended up taking a turn south. Got in a little bit of trouble over, well, won't get into the details as I'm pretty sure those are all redacted and covered up in black ink, but I know what happened, and that's what matters. got us actually to end up meeting Tyrone at that point. Man's a hell of a lawyer and managed to end up keeping her out of trouble for the most part. I kind of got tagged along, so I got dragged along for the ride. That's what happens to people like me, you see. We're in the back field. We're behind the cameras. We're behind the curtain. We're always the one making sure that everything operates just so. But Tyrone Faulkner ended up pulling her and my ass out of hot water. Felt like I owed him, so I ended up trying to keep him on the inside track of certain goings on. And I found myself to end up kind of finding my niche, really. I view her as a real go-getter who tends to end up poking her nose where it doesn't belong. Mm. Honestly, I found that an admirable quality. Now, in my current state, things have been a little bit more iffy. She thinks I've gone the Magnum PI route, and that's sexy. So it ends up turning into a case of I ask her a few questions, she asks me a few questions, got the whole deep throat thing going on. But it ended up turning into a bit of a cluster when I ended up getting caught out. Still, I always admired that in her. And it also ended up turning into a nice little bit because I ended up getting to meet Mr. Faulkner, who is, well, let's just end up saying he's been very insightful into the goings on and surprisingly loose lipped if the right applications are paid. Meaning I end up getting a little bit of information on case law and things that are going around, especially things that people like to keep hush. And given the fact that in my current state, it's not like it's hitting the presses, it's never come back to bite him in the ass. So, with that in mind, it's put me in a really good position. I think this is kind of how I ended up getting involved with Miss Morn. I ended up finding that our clan has proclivities for finding people, finding middlemen, finding individuals who are able to end up figuring, passing the notations along between the big kahunas. And what ends up happening is that we might take a peek see at that letter or that email, that invoice, whatever it might be, and commit it to memory, and no one's the wiser. Kind of funny in how that works. A lot of it's done electronically these days. I'm told that my clan has a propensity for hackers, which really wasn't my style, though. So I decided to make busy and start where I was at. Miss Morn and me have a bit of a complicated relationship. The best way I can end up describing it is I'm her burden, and the reason I'm still around mostly ends up stemming from the fact that I'm mostly just her ball and chain. Normally that'd be sexy, but in this case, it's just no fun at all. So we end up having a bit of a meet and greet in that regard. Respective, she's doing her best to end up impressing upon me the needs of the Camarilla and how rare it is to end up having a Nosferatu here as a member of the higher ups, far more so Prince. But apparently he kind of has it out for her. Internal squabbles. We don't make too much of a big splash of it outside the city. I'm sure most think that we're all marching in, goose stepping in our little booties right now. But reality is it's led to some uncomfortable tensions. And I know that her mistakes are going to end up being mine. Mine are going to be hers. And we both might be lucky to not end up seeing the sun come dawn. Makes things a little bit awkward, but it's a working relationship, and we're just gonna have to carry on.
So there's a part I didn't catch. You think that the Prince has it out for Miss Morn?
That's the rub I'm feeling right now. Whether that's true or not is questionable, but it's Nosferatu. Everything needs to be questioned. I think it mostly stems from the fact that she's of his clan, but not of his, shall we say, appropriate type.
Hmm.
I've been called Malkavian on several times. People think I'm a lunatic of some sort. Do I really come across as a lunatic?
So does
Oh,
Miss Morn suffer from the same infestation as you do?
very much so. And I think that's the part of it. We got to keep our face, and so if we really put our minds to it, it wouldn't be hard to end up saying, "Yeah, I'm just a Malkavian. Don't worry about that, none." Everybody would keep their distance, and everything would be here hunky dory. But the Moon has a need to end up being amongst her own, and it's not like our condition allows me to end up renting that penthouse apartment unless you want to end up seeing eaten by cockroaches. So we stay in the same tunnels as the rest of them. Been in the Warren several times, staying amongst the tent cities and homeless encampments because guess what? Not a lot of people notice when maggots are pouring out of the dumpsters when it's already happening. So I get to end up having to end up doing what I did beforehand, be behind the camera.
All right. Any other important person that needs to be going up on your board? Because you don't really have any enemies to speak of. Or do you?
No, and I made it a point to end up keeping it that way. I'm sure I'll make plenty along the time. Camarilla's kind of old timey, and well, that comes with its own set of issues, but we'll get there when we get there.
Mm-hmm.
The really important thing I need to be paying attention to more than anything is this coterie. See, I would have thought that they would have ended up putting my cute ass in the coterie filled with, oh, Toreador and Ventru. And instead, they end up putting me in with a lunatic, a blood witch, and a leather daddy who ends up having a thing for black.
All right. Well, I think that about would wrap up the web, I think, because I think we've gone through everybody as well. Yeah. Okay. Well, was there anything else that y'all wanted to cover tonight? Because I think that about wraps us up.
Man, I think I'm gonna have to start keeping some Mortine or some Raid around.
Don't you already end up using that for hairspray?
If I did, I'm pretty sure you'd be choking on it.
Oh, harder, mommy.
I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die through this whole entire show. It's gonna be great.
I love it.
Yes, we will definitely need an emote for a Negadana. I'm thinking. And it's gonna have Shriek's face. Negadana. And maybe a spit take counter.
Moss being
I
grateful for once something wasn't in her mouth at the time.
Well, just looking at this particular thought web, it does look like a couple of the enemies that the adversaries that you all have, like Evangeline, like Father McCree, um, They,
so much bread.
yeah, they might be part of that coterie adversary that that we were talking about before, where they're part of it, not the whole thing. So if we're talking about a coterie of equivalent neonates to yourselves, I think a good way to kind of tie them all together is to make them part of the adversary group that you guys are, as a coterie, are dealing with. Um, there's a couple of things that I'm going to add on here outside of public view because there are some things that are secrets. Because some characters
I'll
do
find
have
them.
secrets.
Secrets in a vampire game?
Oh my god! And
Look at. Next, you'll end up saying there's bloodshed. Ew.
ew, gross. But Spectre already had to dip out, so we're gonna save uh we're gonna save introducing the actual characters until next time. But yeah, that about will wrap us up for tonight. Unless there's anything else that y'all think we should cover.
Nothing in particular. I need to do a lot of writing between this session and the next session.
Mm-mm. I have tokens to make,
I
and
have illustrations to finish.
there's a lot of things to finish. That's for sure. So yeah, let's go find somebody to raid so that we can continue on uh, with the joy that other raiders have brought into us. Because we had uh, a Afert Thirst Hero Zone, and the Gunder who raided us earlier tonight as well. So thank you all so much for all of the raids that we had, and then of course to Selds for 10 months as a subscriber, and then Stormfarer for the follow. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate everything that y'all do to support this channel, because we're starting a new chronicle, and well, here we are. So, with that being said, say goodnight, my lovely cast.
Good night.
Good night.
I'm waiting for the bed bugs.
Good night, everyone.